Campbell gives to Bo Jackson. Jackson's on his way. Goodbye. In your face.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
White in motion and handed off Brooks. Finds the hole. Brooks up the middle, and he's gone. Touchdown, Texas Tech.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Yours from the pocket. Throws a lob downfield. And it's picked off at the 42-yard line. Jason Taylor with his second interception of the game.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Lloyd shakes one inside the 10 and into the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina and Marshawn Lloyd.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Indeed, turn to the run and Himby breaks free. Foot race. Roman Himby down the sideline and in. One play, 75 yards. Maryland back in front.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon on this Thursday. It has been a gorgeous, for the most couple of days, it's been gorgeous around Central Texas, wherever you are. And some of you might be on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Northwest, the North, or anywhere around the Midlands, and, of course, in the South as well. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak here on the set. Background, we have Garrett Ross, also Jacob Wilson, and Jack McKenzie. Levi and Emery are always out there somewhere lurking, doing what they do. Good afternoon. We hope that you have had a great day. We will have a couple of things for you in a moment. We are loaded up with guests. Max Olson from theathletic.com, college football. Jeff Pearlman, the author of the book, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo. Mickey Spagnola, Cowboys NFL. Craig's off the radar, former Fox executive. Bob Thompson today, just after 5. Jennifer Smoak, fantasy football guru. And then Paul's top 5. A lot to get to today and a short amount of time to do it. Let's update you on the poll we put out yesterday, the Twitter poll about who had the most or the must win that was probably more important than anybody else from the Big 12. The opinion was, well, Garrett, there's actually a result. There should be results on there. No? Okay. Go to my feed. All right, I have to send you the updated part of it. But the results are that about 52% of you said the Texas Tech Baylor game. And then I asked, when I started getting responses, a lot of you then changed, even if you had voted for Tech or Baylor or whatever game it was, Oklahoma State, K-State, TCU, West Virginia, then a lot of you started to get it. That perhaps if you look, and if you do look at the national scene, there are two teams that are still involved there. TCU, they're unbeaten, ranked number 7. And they're on the road against West Virginia. Oklahoma State ranked in the top 10 and also on the road against Kansas State. And then that kind of turned once we asked for your thoughts and also opinion. And I'll say this, because of what we started out, and of course we covered Baylor, that maybe a lot of the votes came from Baylor fans, or we have a large contingent as well of Texas Tech viewers and also those who follow us here at 365 Sports.
I think Craig just nailed it at the beginning of the show. TCU. That's it. That's the one. They're contending for the CFP right now. That's the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, that to me makes the most sense. They're the only unbeaten. They're in the driver's seat. They went out. They're Big 12 champions, and they're in the college football playoff. So you can't say that about anybody else. I mean, I guess you could say, Oklahoma State wins out that they're Big 12 champions, but outside of that, there's no guarantee as far as a postseason goes for any of the other teams outside of TCU. If they go unbeaten, they're going to be in the playoffs. So yeah, to me, it's them, and maybe that changes down the road with some of these other games, but I don't know. It's TCU. They're in the driver's seat right now.
So that's that. The actual update now, Baylor Tech was 55%. Oklahoma State, K-State, 20.5%. TCU, West Virginia, 14.5%. Oklahoma, Iowa State, just under 10%. And there's like 6 minutes or so left in that poll. It was up for 24 hours. Now, Colt Barber posted this earlier today in the Sikkim365.com premium section. There's two different pages here. Let's take this one first. In 2022, this season, Texas Tech, with Kitley, of course, as offensive coordinator, has run 100-plus plays 3 times this year, including their last 2 games. 3 times, Houston at the start of the year, Oklahoma State on the road, and then their blowout of West Virginia, 103, 104, 103. That's a bunch of plays 3 times this year. Now, to put that in perspective, from 2009 to 2021, they had, go back to the first page, Garrett. I was reading the bottom part of it. 100 plays, and they ran a lot of this. They had 100 plays 7 times. They've had 3 this season already. Don't go to the second page until we discuss this.
Well, and given the way that Baylor's defense has been playing, I don't see that number being too far off from 100 on Saturday, win or lose. I think I think they can get those in.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I mean, they're going to try to run 100 plays, and they've been very successful at that, and they're going to try to keep the ball out of Baylor's hands. I think that they'll be effective on offense as they have been pretty much all year, and it's just a matter of how many stops can Baylor get and how can they respond when Tech does score. I mean, it's a hard offense to defend because they go for it on 4th down quite often. They're not a great running team, but they're going to throw it all over, and now it seems like they might have their best fitted quarterback in Baron Morton. At least it appears that could be the case. So, it's going to be tough for Baylor's defense. They're going to have to find a way to get off the field, and if they don't, then Tech's just going to keep running play after play after play and going to wear them down, and I'm sure that's the goal. If I've picked up on anything from Joey McGuire interviews and just various things, it's they're very well aware of that defensive line, and I'm sure they're very well aware of that shaky secondary, but you run 100 plays, you wear down guys like Apu Ika and Cole Maxwell or whoever else you want to throw out there on the D-line. Not that they're getting to the quarterback anyways, but you want to really make them ineffective, have them out there for 95 plays, and then, trying to get a stop in the 4th quarter. They're not going to be accustomed to that. So be very curious as how Dave Aranda and his staff have, kind of addressed that possibility and that likelihood, because you can't get guys more conditioned in a week's time, right? So are they conditioned enough to be able to go out to Lubbock and be out there potentially for 100 plays? I don't know that question because we haven't seen them have to do that. So, yeah, that's one of the big question marks of this game is, can the Baylor defense get stops and get that Tech offense off the field? Can they get stops on 4th down multiple times on Saturday night? Because based on what we've seen, Joey McGuire is going to go for it on 4th down multiple times on Saturday night. They're not punting if it's not the most obvious situation. So, yeah, make us punt or get us off the field, stop us, or else we're just going to play offense until we die. That's basically what's going to happen.
And they have just enough of an effective running game. And remember now, West Virginia gashed Baylor with the running game. With Thompson and Brooks, both combined over 300 yards, 700-plus yards, almost 700 yards, and 9 touchdowns on the ground just with those two. Xavier White, their leading receiver, he and Jaron and Bradley both have caught. Miles Price as well have got 8 touchdowns among the 3 of them, and also nearly 90 catches. So that's the first part of it. Texas Tech is at 100-plus plays 3 times this year, and even though they were known for what they did with getting the ball out and running and tons of plays, they only did it 7 times prior to this year from 2009 to 2021, so it's working. They're still, again, their record is still what it is, but the offense is what they're doing. It is working. Now, put it in perspective.
I want to, do you have the total team plays per game? Is that something you're about to show? Just in all college football? Because I was going to add, they run 14 more plays or 13 plus more plays than any other team in the country per game.
That's not a
almost,
surprise.
you know, 2-3 series if you're looking at it that way. They run nearly
or one damn good long,
or just one long touchdown drive, or like Baylor or like Kansas last week, couple long touchdown drives that they had. But yeah, they run 97.2 plays per game. The closest is Oklahoma State, runs 83.7 plays per game so far through 2022, and over the last three, Texas Tech has averaged exactly 100 plays per game. So, whereas Oklahoma State's still the second most plays, but they're averaging 83.7. So that's 14 more plays per game.
And Oklahoma State got them, remember, 41-31 in Stillwater. So they're one of the teams that enjoys that pace too, or is not afraid to be a part of that pace with Spencer Sanders. Now, to put things in perspective, Baylor, I remember when Briles was here, that used to be like a goal. I mean, they wanted to get above 100, and here's how many times they did, a lot. Now, remember what we said. Texas Tech for 12 years, from 2009 to 2021, it actually might be 13 years, 7 times. Here is where Baylor, when they ran the up-tempo offense, 2011, twice under Briles. 2014, once. That was the incredible 61-58 game with TCU. They did it twice in 15. That was the last year Briles, and, of course, including the bowl game when they ran the ball down North Carolina's throat. They did it with the Briles staff twice in 2016. And then in 17, Matt Rule's first year, they had 101. And I think that might have been the year that they gave Oklahoma hell and almost had an onside kick recovered at the end of that game. And they the Baker Mayfield and Oklahoma won the game, but they gave Oklahoma hell with that. So they've done it. During that time, they've done it 8 times, but not any time recently. Tech's done it 3 times this year. So who wins the pace? Baylor wants to have more complementary football with what they do, and they haven't always been able to, of course, accomplish that. They would rather, if they could, ground and pound and maybe some play action, try to hit Texas Tech's, secondary on occasion, but they're getting what they want, Texas Tech, and trying to slow that down. We all turned in predictions earlier today on the game. We'll have those. I guess that will be posted tomorrow, but also we'll have it on our pregame Saturday at 4:30 on CW Channel and here on 365 Sports. Games tonight. Virginia Tech against 24th-ranked North Carolina State. Louisiana playing at Southern Miss. And Utah tonight still in the picture in the Pac-12 after their win against USC. They play at Washington State in Pullman. Those 3 games, college football tonight.
Curious to see how NC State finishes out the season without Devin Leary. Obviously, that's a huge change for them. They lost that game to Syracuse a couple weeks ago. But down the stretch with the quarterback they have, who's a 5th-year senior or 6th-year senior from Charleston Southern, who is running a wide-open offense, which they don't really run at NC State when he was at Charleston Southern. They haven't done much with him in that regard in these 2 weeks since Devin Leary's been hurt. So curious to see how that works out and if Virginia Tech can take advantage of them playing with their backup quarterback. They're still really good on defense, and they're still, pretty good in the running game. But, we'll see what happens with NC State down the stretch. It's a little curious to me on how they close out.
I mean, they're favored huge tonight. They're favored by nearly 2 touchdowns, even without Devin Leary. So I think that tells you a bit about, I guess probably Virginia Tech as much as anything. But, yeah, I mean, NC State reeling a little bit because of that. Speaking of Texas Tech, NC State, a team that beat Texas Tech just a few weeks back. But yeah, certainly some of the gas let out of the wind let out of their sails a little bit with how, things have transpired recently. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Utah and Washington State ought to be interesting. So yeah, glad to see some games tonight.
All right. As Jerry on the chat room asked, what has been Baylor allowing our plays per game? And I'm going to get that for you, and I'll have that for you as soon as I can get that to you. And I know that it rarely has it probably got up to that point. It might be interesting to see how many Oklahoma State ran, but they had the long kickoff return that wiped out what would be a drive. I mean,
Kansas
in that game
had a bunch of 3-and-outs, but they had 2 drives in the second half that were probably 30 plays total. Just 2 back-to-back I think they were back-to-back drives or close to it, like 2 out of 3 drives there in the second half where they went 90-plus twice. So, I think that definitely ticked it up. It doesn't seem like they get off the field very well, just in watching them in general over the year. And maybe I'm a bit slanted towards the negative just because it's kind of, what it's been mostly, or at least it feels like it's kind of been that way when you talk about the defense and especially the secondary and getting off the field and those things, we haven't had a lot of good to report. That's been a weakness. There's no doubt about it. So that's a major concern coming into this weekend. I think the first thing is just the environment and whether or not they can prevent themselves from hyperventilating because it's just going to – not that they haven't been – in a big game on the road and all that. It's just that, if things start to go sideways, can they, not drown in the noise and in the mistakes and in the crowd and all that comes with that? If they can just keep their head above water and keep their cool, I think they can fend off some mistakes and, play well. But if they can't get stops at all, like we've seen at times with this defense or secondary, then, yeah, it's going to be a really long day at the office. I'd say that just – the environment and kind of the momentum in Tech's direction is like probably worry number one, just dealing with that. And then worry number two is like, yeah, how does your defense get some stops? I mean, that's the biggest thing to me.
Yeah,
well,
I don't.
Well, how do you not get off the field? What are two things you have to do better, and why don't you get off? Why can't you get third down stops, Paul?
Oh, well, sacks and turnovers.
Yeah.
They're not doing those. And, I've tried to wrap my head around, like, even if this game was in Waco, I still would probably pick Texas Tech because of the matchup. Now, Tech has not won away from the friendly confines of Jones A&T this year, but this, to me, I look at things on this game strictly on a matchup perspective, and Baylor's done nothing this year to tell me that Texas Tech is not their maybe biggest matchup nightmare of all the teams they have on the entire schedule. Just because of what they've done this year. Everybody else, you can kind of maybe hide some deficiencies. Look, the 3 games they've lost, it's not like they've been blown out. They're right there. They play close games. It's their self-inflicted wounds that do the most damage to them overall because that leads them not to be able to control a game and do it their way. But there's just nothing. It shows me now that Baylor's going to win this game.
No, I
disagree with that. I think they damn well can win this game. I think
don't.
Okay, I do. So, yeah, I do think that they can. I think that, people have every reason to believe that they won't. And I might pick them to not win this game, but I'm not going to say that they don't have a chance to win this game. I think that's far from the truth.
I'm not saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I cannot wrap my head around seeing a scenario that they have a chance. They're very talented, especially on offense. They're very talented. I misspoke there. But what I am saying is, based on how they have played and how they have really disappointed themselves many, many times, and the way the matchups will work defense to offense, I just can't wrap my head around how the game could go for them to win it.
I know how they could win it.
I do too, yeah.
But I don't expect them to be able to pull that off because we haven't seen enough of that consistently. For example, Garrett, I'm going to send you this email. And just put up the names in the parentheses, and if you can, I don't know if you can do that. Let me know when you get to it. To give you an idea of what Baylor does is how many plays they've allowed because of the fact, even though they have disappointed in ways on defense, they still do run the ball pretty well.
Yes.
And they're going to have to do that to take out the clock, kill the clock, and also I don't think you're going to kill the crowd by any means, but to try to also then you kind of soften that a little bit if you take the ball and keep it away from an explosive offense.
Well, I mean, and even if they don't, they're an explosive offense too, or can be. They will probably lean heavier on their run game because, I think you want to keep the ball out of Tech's hands as much as possible, knowing that they're going to want to squeeze you to death. But, you get a couple stops. You don't allow them to have 15-play drives, and you actually don't fumble it inside the 15-yard line twice like last week, and you actually put points on the board. I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, I think that they can be in a shootout with Tech. I think that they can score not like necessarily all night long, but I think that they can score points on Tech's defense, and I expect Tech's going to score points on their defense. So I think they can win in a shootout. I think that if it muddles down and becomes kind of a bogged down game, I think they're the better running team. I think they're the better run defense. So it's to me, and it sounds like so cliche, but really it's like turnovers. It's turnovers and your emotional state going in. Is this going to be the young team that kind of freaks out and like one thing goes bad and then everything unravels, or are they going to be the team that like, okay, we overcame that, boom, we're right back to being focused? Like that the mental part of this for Baylor to me is the biggest thing.
But we haven't seen that.
Well, yeah, that's why I
can't wrap my head around
right,
it.
But I'm saying like if they can do that, like, because at some point you'd think that they're going to have to, and maybe it's not this year. And if it's not this year, then they lose on Saturday night. But if they can find a way to find that place, then they absolutely can swing with Texas Tech. But you're right. The part that's missing is the big concern, the fact that they haven't been able to show that they can do that for 4 quarters. So I totally understand that. But, yeah, just going toe-to-toe, they can do that with Texas Tech.
Well, here is Garrett, do you have it available? Okay, we mentioned that Texas Tech is just rolling along with Kitley's offense. Here are the number of plays, and I don't have the title there, I apologize. This year, Baylor has allowed these number of plays to their opponent. Now, obviously, Albany, they dictated everything. Brigham Young, slugfest, about even. Brigham Young ran 73 plays. They're not known as a run and shoot or up-tempo team, although Jaron Hall had some drives. Texas State, 70. Iowa State, they jumped into their grill pretty quickly. They got a couple of things that happened early, and Iowa State played comeback and threw the ball a lot, but they still dictated that game until a couple of things happened in the fourth quarter, which reminds you in a way there as almost what happened against Kansas here. Oklahoma State got them. Highest number of plays in a game, 76. Second highest number of plays, West Virginia, 74. Kansas, 49. They dominated again. Even then, even when they held Kansas to 49 points, no kick returns or punt returns for touchdowns, a long fumble return that set up one. They get 49 plays, and it still was a bang, bang, gang in the last 5 minutes. They did not win a shootout, though, against West Virginia when they lost 43-40.
Well, I see a trend there. In all their 3 losses, that there have been more than 70 plays. And Texas State was a game that they ran a lot of plays, and Baylor started kind of sluggishly in that one where it wasn't a game, but it they weren't dictating the tempo like they wanted to early in that game. So not surprised to see, Jake Spavital's offense get to 70 plays of that. But look, if they're losing the 3 games where they're giving up 73, 74, 76 plays, letting a team run 80 or 90 probably doesn't work out well for them.
No, you're probably going to lose. You probably will. So, it's going to be key for the defense, again, to get off the field. It's kind of the same thing at turnovers and penalties, and your offense has got to convert in the red zone, and your defense has to get stops. And, all that, the same thing for every team in every football game. I get that's kind of what it feels like. But, that's true. It's what it boils down to, right? 90% of the time, those are the things it boils down to. Why has Baylor lost games? Turnovers and penalties and not being able to finish drives and not getting stops on defense. So, if they show some of those same warts, then Tech will, put a 50 burger on them, if not more. If they actually go out there and, play to their best capabilities, then, I think that they've got more than a puncher's chance. But I understand the uncertainty and the uneasiness that people have with them going into this game for a variety of reasons. I totally get it. I just don't think that it's all for naught. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so those are some numbers. Texas Tech and Baylor, 6:30 on Saturday. Obviously, yesterday and even Monday and Tuesday spoke quite a bit about TCU and their game on the road against West Virginia. They're heavy favorites there. And then perhaps the best game, I don't know if it's the best game, but obviously Kansas State trying to fight back from some issues at quarterback against Oklahoma State after their gut check comeback win against Texas in Stillwater the week before. And then there's that elimination game. Maybe Kansas, I think Oklahoma both still get a bowl game, whoever loses, but Kansas then would be in a free fall after that great 5-0 start.
I don't know that the Kansas does, actually. I don't know where their win comes from. I said a couple days ago, I think Texas might be their best bet. And that's not to play a joke on Texas because of the Kansas history. That's just legitimately who they probably, unless you think they're going to go to Lubbock and get a win, or unless you think they're going to, who else do they have on their schedule?
Stillwater's next.
Yeah, they're going to go to Stillwater and get a win. I'm sorry, I don't think they're going to either place and getting a win. So, I think Texas might be their best bet, or I guess maybe going to Lubbock. I don't know, but it's going to be cutting it close for them. There's not a guaranteed 6 win on that schedule.
I think Kansas State's probably their second best bet at the end of the year, especially if Jalen Daniels has played in all these games and is healthy playing and is not limited by the injury and have lingering concerns, then they're a team that can mess up, anybody's plans. But, it's going to be tough for them.
So that's a little preview. And again, Chris Level, who's the sideline reporter for Texas Tech football, will join us tomorrow on the show, along with many others who will break down how each team will try to attack the other. Sam Bradshaw, Grayson Grundhafer, and a few others. Taylor McCarg, ESPN, will join us in that time period tomorrow as well. The poll's closed, and again, that Baylor-Texas Tech game, and I got a feeling that perhaps because of who we are and what we do, but also it is a rivalry-type game. Texas Tech, I would think if you poll, in fact, I'll do this on the chat room.
I don't know that
if you're a Texas Tech, If you're that's what I'm going to ask. If you're a Texas Tech fan, in order, which opponent would you rather beat the most, 1 through 3? If you're a Tech fan, 1 through 3, and I would think Texas is at the very top of that list, probably for a lot of people, if not almost everybody. Maybe Oklahoma State, perhaps not the case. If you're a Texas Tech fan, who would you rather beat the most in the Big 12? There's 9 answers. Give us the top 3, 1, 2, and 3. I'd be curious to see how that goes. And Craig, of course, went back and forth with a lot of Tech fans about whether or not it's a rivalry game or not. It always depends. A lot of it depends on what's going on. A lot of it depends on bad blood. A lot of it depends on maybe what happened the year before or things in this year, the strangeness because of the Joey McGuire and staff in Lubbock for this game.
Yeah, this is one of those weeks where social media doesn't, always help all that much because you can't really have like a conversation on social media. You know what I mean? And then there's people that want to like take something and then go call the troops to try to let's shame this guy. I saw one Dallas Morning News, I guess, beat writer or something like, dude, come on now, like grow a pair, calling on people that try to like swarm my mentions over something silly. Like that told me a lot about you, kid. But there is some bad blood, I think, clearly between the fan bases, but I think the thing that's getting lost, like I had somebody go like, well, you do realize Dave Arenda's a Tech grad, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm well aware of that. Like, are we really going to act like Joey McGuire being the associate head coach last year and an assistant at Baylor the last 4 years and interviewing for the head coaching job and then going and taking the Tech job late last year and bringing some guys over, which is cool, and that's part of the deal, whatever. Are we really comparing that to Dave Aranda graduating from Tech 20 years ago? Like, as far as, like, the emotions in this game?
Well, it's
and
also
I guess you
grad
can't,
school too. So
yeah,
it's
he's a GA. He didn't like go there originally. He didn't like grow up in Lubbock and go to Tech. And so like I guess that point's just totally lost on people because there's no nuance on Twitter. But my whole thing is just that, and like then there's this isn't the biggest game. I know all that. It's a big game for the people involved, not you. It's not about you, Red Raider 34 or Bear Fan 76. I'm talking about the folks on the sidelines and those involved between the teams. Dave Aranda graduating as a GA from Tech 20 years ago is not firing him up to play the Red Raiders the same way that Joey McGuire facing the team he was just coaching and now competing against is. And I don't know how else to explain that, but the message is just running into a brick wall. But that's my whole thing. And yeah, I do think that adds a lot of spicy to this game and makes it a bit more attractive than if it was just Baylor Tech, blah, blah, just Matt Wells versus, Dave Aranda or Matt Wells versus Matt Rule. Like, this is a lot spicier than that. And it's in large part because of the guy coaching the Red Raiders right now. So that's why I think this one's got a little extra juice to it and nothing more.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, is next on 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Go to marcos.com for more information. And you have numerous offers online by going to marcos.com and ordering from your local or wherever is the closest location where you live. In Waco, there are 5 locations in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and Robinson. Go online and they'll deliver it to you. You can go online, order it, and go pick it up yourself right there at the particular store. They have different, in fact, yesterday we had the all-meat thin crust. We also had it cut in the Chicago cuts. I believe maybe it wasn't, at thin crust pizza. And then also on top of that, the pepperoni magnifico, the large, just covered with pepperonis from start to finish. Every way you look, there was a pepperoni. Thin crust again. That's my favorite. We even stopped, actually picked up some chicken nuggets and had those delivered as well. And the girl who delivered the pizzas was so sweet. She was so nice. She was worried about being 5 or 10 minutes late. It was great. She brought an extra bottle, I guess, of Dr. Pepper. She was fantastic, very courteous, and we appreciated her. The food was great. The order was easy. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. We have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will have you driving home in style, like a new 2022 Dodge Challenger or Charger. Don't settle for anything less than high-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Dodge Challenger and Charger. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue, cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us, covers college football, Big 12, but also many things throughout the country with David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak. Max, thank you very much. Which game, in your opinion, do you feel like a team, based on the scenario, has the most must-win this weekend in the Big 12?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, the Oklahoma State K-State game, it's just tough to assess it right now because we just don't know the status of Adrian Martinez. I kind of think that Iowa State is in a position here where it's time for them to put a run together. They're hosting Oklahoma in 11 a.m. game. OU's a slight favorite. I think if Iowa State's going to put a few wins together here and get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game, I'm not saying this is a must-win, but, man, they've got to start stringing a couple together here, and I think that starts with an OU team that's, coming off a bye and a chance to kind of regroup here a little bit.
Max, as deep as the Big 12 is and as close as the games for the most part have been, is there a scenario you can see where maybe 3 or 4 teams are looking outside or outside looking in when it comes to bowl season?
That's a good question. I think that you look at the standings right now, I still think Kansas will get one more. They're the ones at 5-3 here who might be stuck for a little bit and trying to get over the hump. I think West Virginia and Iowa State are probably the two that you worry about a little bit. West Virginia's got a really tough schedule ahead. Iowa State is going to have to probably pull some upsets, honestly, in over this final stretch. I think they're good enough, and they're finally getting healthy, and that's the big difference. They just have not been healthy enough this year to play up to their potential, even when you knew it would be kind of a little bit of a rebuilding year. And I think Baylor and Texas Tech are both in good shape, and I think OU. I'm really interested to see the way OU responds in November here, because I think they do have a chance to, not to say that the issues of October are behind them by any means. There's still a lot to clean up, but I do think they have a chance to put together a little run here, finish off on a better note for year one with Venables, and potentially even, be a real challenger to Oklahoma State and Bedlam.
Max, Paul asked that same question to me yesterday, and I think Oak State, Kansas State, definitely the bigger game as far as just hype and all that. But TCU's the unbeaten, right? TCU's the one that has, the shot to do everything they still want to do. When do you think they start getting some serious consideration as one of the best teams in the country? What do they have to do, and how close are they to that conversation?
Yeah, it's a great point. We were talking about that on our podcast today. Like, you look at the schedule ahead here, and obviously the big game ahead for TCU is against Texas down in Austin in a couple of weeks. You do wonder, can they get through West Virginia? Road trip to Morgantown, as you guys know, not the easiest. And then they get Texas Tech next week. I think it's an interesting little stretch here ahead of them where if they're 9-0 through that, really big games ahead of you. But you wonder, is there a stumble coming after, playing so many, really challenging games, top 25 opponents, obviously. And this is a team that already had their bye week during non-conference play. Like, this is just a stretch run all the way through with no breaks. And so I think if they can get through these next two, the Texas game is huge. But in terms of the playoff conversation, obviously the first set of rankings come out next week. And you wonder how they're going to be compared to these other teams because, unfortunately, there's not a lot of margin for error if you want to make a run at the playoff here because you kind of know that, whether it's Tennessee or Georgia or somebody, there's probably going to be a one-loss team coming out of the SEC that doesn't get to play in the SEC title game. And, you can potentially say the same thing in the Big Ten.
Max, we went over a graphic that Colt Barber put up in our premium section about Texas Tech has run 100-plus plays in three games this year. They ran 7 100-plus plays like from 2009 to 2021 when that's what you thought they probably did more often. Baylor under Briles ran like 7-8 times during his era, or 6 or 7 times, and I think one time when they almost shocked the world and beat Oklahoma with Rule in 17. Isn't that really, turnovers, whatever, but isn't that what this game comes down to is who can control the pace, whether it's hair on fire, even though Baylor can score, or is it the complementary soak the clock, suck the clock out, run the time, and also perhaps even, although I don't think you can keep Tech fans out of it, calm them down?
Yeah, it's a good point. And, that's actually something that Zach Hitley didn't even do once last year at Western Kentucky, even when they had that thing rolling with, Bailey Zappi and Jerry Stearns and the Stearns brothers and everybody there. The tempo there, I think they really are going to crank it up here going forward, and especially this week. And, I think there's definitely an advantage there. And I think you even saw it last weekend in the fourth quarter, Oklahoma State, Texas. And Oklahoma State ended up running 99 plays or 98 plays. Texas just, ran out of gas. I mean, they just, you saw a lot of broken tackles. Obviously, you saw a lot of mistakes throughout that game and penalties and stuff like that. But if you can control the game like that, if you can force your opponent to have a really long 4-hour kind of game, I think that you have a lot better chance of pulling it off. Now, that kind of comes down to game control. And when you play Baylor, more often than not under Dave Aranda, they're going to kind of control the flow of that game. And so that kind of chess match of it, and are we going to play the game the way that Zach Hitley and Tech wants to play, or are we going to play it the way that, Ron Roberts and Dave Aranda and Jeff Grimes want to play? That's going to be a really interesting battle. And obviously, you guys know, I'm stoked that we're not playing this at a neutral site here. I think that atmosphere is going to be pretty electric.
Max, the Big Ten released their schedule for next year this week, and sticking with divisions, at least for the next year, my initial thought was they really needed to add USC and UCLA because the 2023 schedule is kind of bland for them. What are your thoughts on the Big Ten schedule?
It's always interesting. Like usually, if you would think like if these would get released at a different time, they'd get a lot more attention. But in the middle of a game week, it's tough. I thought that the Penn State drama yesterday was kind of amusing. They've had to start on the road, I think like 7, 8 years in a row now, and they're really tired of it and really pissed about it. I noticed the Nebraska schedule, they're starting with a Thursday night road game at Minnesota for whoever the new coach is there. I think that's an interesting challenge, and they won't get a home game until week 3. But yeah, not like don't have a ton of takes on that because, as you guys know, there's just so much other stuff going on.
Max Olson with us, theathletic.com on 365 Sports.
Max, how healthy do you think Adrian Martinez might be at this stage? And I mean, what a roller coaster for K-State last week. It's just like everything, the way that it went up and down for them. And if he's not healthy, how confident are you in Will Howard that he can kind of guide the ship the rest of the way for the Wildcats?
Yeah, what a strange deal last week for K-State. I'm not sure I've seen many Big 12 games in my decade doing this where you had that many key guys get injured in one game. It was just brutal for K-State, and it's not just quarterback, but a ton of dudes. And what made it even weirder was that Tim Brando crew, they don't have a sideline reporter, so you weren't getting any updates about who was missing and how long and all that stuff. So not like a ton of clarity about the Adrian Martinez status. And is he going to be good to go for this game, this huge game? I think that Will Howard came in and played with some confidence and certainly threw a few dimes early on and gave his team a lead. Also made some mistakes, obviously, in the second half. I think if Colin Klein has a week to kind of get a plan prepared for Will Howard, who's a kind of a unique guy, a bigger dude, like a 245-pound quarterback, I think they're going to have a chance to score some points. But certainly, when you have the explosive rushing ability of Martinez, it's just a different deal. So huge if they can get him back, and if not, I think they'll be okay. But it's just hard to be quite as dangerous with Will Howard.
Oklahoma State has gritty wins. The win last week where they found a way in the second half to slow that thing down, and they slowly hung around, and then they got the strike. And then, of course, the win in Waco as well. And they lost that game, bang, bang, to TCU, and they blew the lead. Your thoughts about what Mike Gundy seems to do and sometimes is under the radar the way he does it?
Yeah, I think the thing that, like I said, it was the way that Oklahoma State was able to outlast Texas in that game. I thought it was really a testament to what they built, kind of not just their winning culture, but Rob Glass, their strength coach, is one of the best in the country, and really the kind of the secret sauce behind the scenes there. I thought that was just a team that was more experienced, better conditioned, better strength. All of it kind of showed out in a game like that when you go 4 hours and it's exhausting, and certainly the difference between the experience of Spencer Sanders and the inexperience of Quinn Ewers really kind of showed up in that game. I think it's an Oklahoma State team that, are they like top 5 in the country in one category? Like, not really, no, but they're just a really good football team. Like, they're just, it's not like the sexiest group. And obviously, they've had to replace a lot of guys off last year, but man, as you guys saw, it's a pretty resilient team that gets really good quarterback play. And, as long as Sanders is healthy, or as we've seen, obviously just healthy enough to play, they've got a chance to be really tough to beat every week.
Max, Ole Miss travels into College Station this weekend. Ole Miss, obviously, the disappointing loss to LSU to give them their first blemish. I'd imagine they're pretty heavy favorites here, but it is Kyle Field and all that. Having said that, suspensions this week for Jimbo Fisher and company, it just kind of keeps going downhill. Your thoughts on where we are right now with A&M, and I guess, anything you have on the game itself, but obviously the games don't seem to be the biggest talking points right now in College Station.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think the Connor Wigman, if we're going to assume that he's playing in this game, you wonder what does a plan built around him look like, and obviously one of the challenges that we're seeing this season is the complexity of the A&M offense. Well, okay, let's give it to the true freshman and see what he can do. Like, you've got to make some adjustments here. They need to get a lot more help from their run game, which I think is 105th in the country right now in rushing. The offensive line and just the pass protection has been among the worst in the country this season. There's just a lot of issues with that offense. I mean, it's not Iowa bad, but it's pretty frustrating to watch right now with as talented as they are. With as many guys that they're working with, and I know the absence of Anaya Smith and Max Johnson and some guys, the guys they lost up front, like Bryce Foster, is tough, but man, offensively, they got to figure something out here because Ole Miss can score pretty fast on you. And, you know, if this turns into a 4-game slide, I think the bad vibes just continue. You look at the schedule, and there's opportunity here. They've got some winnable games coming up where you can maybe string together, 2 or 3 wins and clinch a bowl and all that stuff. But, yeah, right now, I mean, A&M could not need this game more in terms of just kind of improving morale and getting everybody to calm down.
Yeah, what are the odds that Jimbo Fisher will, in the offseason, change everything about what he's done his entire career and be a CEO and not a play caller?
Yeah, I don't know, Paul. You sound a little skeptical in the question. Seems like kind of a leading question there.
Yeah, it was a little bit. To me, there's no evidence that a guy who is very high strung is going to be able to also bring in somebody who he's not going to be able to make also very high strung.
Yeah, and look, A&M has the money to go out and get one of the best and most expensive offensive coordinators in the country. We all know that. Like, if Jimbo Fisher is going out and trying to do that, to me, it's similar to Ohio State last year when they knew they had a problem. Like, Ohio State is not going to lose to anybody else for Jim Knowles if they want to get Jim Knowles. You know what I mean? I think A&M has a chance to go do this. Now, the question obviously is, what direction do you want to go in? Do you want it to be more, I don't know, like the Kendall Briles, Jeff Lebby kind of version of things? Do you want it to be a little bit more pro style? Do you want to, like, what is kind of the ideal way to go win the West is obviously like a curious conversation, but I think he'll be willing to make changes because it's just been so brutal this year, but certainly contractually, he doesn't have to. And, he could even just say, screw it. James Coley runs the offense now and everyone can deal with it. Like, he doesn't really have to go outside his building if he doesn't want to, but I think it's going to make sense at the end of the year here for them to, bring in somebody that just gives them more juice on offense and makes people excited about the direction of it, because at the end of the day, it's going to affect recruitment. It's going to affect the kind of players that want to come to A&M. And I think you have to give people a reason to believe it's going to be better this year.
Max, I think we've pretty much touched on most of the big stuff, but I guess nationally the biggest game, Penn State, Ohio State. Your thoughts on the Buckeyes and Nittany Lions in the Big Ten?
Yeah, this would be another game for Ohio State to really prove, that they're the best team in the country. I mean, I think they had that opportunity this week. Defensively under Knowles, they've been one of the best in the country. And you could look at that and say maybe that's the quality of the competition, and we just haven't really seen them against great teams yet. But, that offense, you saw it last week against Iowa, can kind of do whatever it wants when they're clicking and when Stroud is right. I think this is a chance for Ohio State to make a big statement. And Penn State, there's a lot to prove in this after Michigan just, beat you down a couple weeks ago. I think that they're not a bad team. They're definitely a top 25 caliber team, but I do feel like they're just overmatched for Ohio State and what Buckeyes have shown this year. And man, that Ohio State-Michigan game this year is setting up to be even better than last year.
Max, if you had a Heisman vote, or I know you do, I know we're not allowed to give it out once we give it. Is it C.J. Stroud? Is it who is it for you? Is it Bryce Young? Who is your Heisman pick right now?
Yeah, I think we do like a weekly Heisman straw poll, just real unofficial, and kind of send in your top 3, whatever you're thinking on Saturday night. I think this week I probably had Hooker, Stroud, and Max Duggan. I think were my 3. Certainly you can make a case for a bunch of other guys. I think I had Bijan on my list a couple of weeks ago. Like, I think there's a ton of dudes in the race right now, but I think those probably Hooker and Stroud you have to call the top 2. And I just love what Max Duggan has done this year. What a great story, but certainly a case for Blake Corum or a bunch of other players right now.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Thanks for jumping on with us early. That's Max Olson, theathletic.com. Great follow on Twitter, and also what he writes and they write as a group in The Athletic. I know some don't get a subscription to it, but that's fine. I think it's great.
I think it's a real shame that we're not talking about that big Big Ten battle with you guys of Nebraska and Illinois. I wanted to ask Max, did you anticipate when looking at that Cornhusker schedule that Illinois would be a top 25 opponent that you would have to run into at some point?
They're better than top 25, yeah.
They're top 20, yeah. But, I mean, like, that was not one I think that you circled prior to the year. And like, yeah, that Illinois game, at least I don't think so. Maybe some people did. Maybe they had respect for the Illini. But, yeah, like, that's That's a story that we had fun with early on, and it's at a low point now with the Mickey Joseph, and it's like, just get onto the coaching search at this point.
It's like people sending me snake videos and pictures. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's like just beating a dead horse. But you're right. I mean, but Illinois, I think it was a year. How long has Bielema been there? His second year or third year?
Second year.
It was like his first year there. I think he beat them up pretty good. You could see the kind of he's got a certain way, a personality. He knows the identity of his team. He knew it at Wisconsin. Arkansas got a little bit off the rails. But, yeah, they're playing unbelievably stingy defense, and also they pound the rock and do some things with their offense.
Yeah, this year, too. He got hired in December 2020. So.
Okay. All right, when we come back, we're just about 10 minutes away from hearing from Jeff Pearlman, New York Times bestselling author on the book. Go ahead and put that up on the set. Here, I'll put it in front of right there. That book right there, we'll have it on the set. Paul Catalina has a copy. I read some of it today. It was on SI.com. On the man, the myth, the legend of Bo Jackson. That comes up today a little bit after 4 o'clock. But a couple of other notes in sports. We'll do that next. This is 365 Sports. Cops and Kids Halloween drive-thru coming up on Saturday night from 6 until 8 o'clock. Cops and Kids Halloween drive-thru in the city of Woodway at Woodway's Activity Park, 6 to 8. Join the Woodway Public Safety Department and Woodway Family Center for a fun trick-or-treat and a drive-thru. That way your kids could enjoy a special night with the Halloween, and then also as well what they want by being safe inside your car if you want to drive through and get some candy and then move on. City of Woodway also has a really cool event coming up on November the 10th from 9 until 11 o'clock that morning. That is on Friday at the Pavilion at the Arboretum, which is a phenomenal setting, a place where you could have business meetings, rehearsal dinners, weddings, what you need. Family get-togethers, reunions. It's a phenomenal place. It's called the Pavilion at the Arboretum. That's going to be at 9 to 11, Friday, November the 10th, a veterans breakfast. You go to discoverwoodway.com for more information. It's a complimentary breakfast for all veterans. Seats are limited, so get online and get yourself set up for that, or the veteran or veterans in your life. DiscoverWoodway.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus. And best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects. With 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Well, we just had Max on. He's not this segment. We'll have Jeff Pearlman, New York Times, in the book about Bo Jackson in a moment. By the way, I asked some of you, the Tex fans, to give us 1, 2, and 3 your biggest rivals. Brandful said Texas, TCU, or who you'd rather beat more than anybody else. Texas, TCU, and then Oklahoma was the latest response we got from a Tech fan, and we appreciate you doing that. Now, just a little bit of kind of a, I hate snakes. I'm intrigued by them. Lane Pittman, Grant Taft's daughter, sent this to me. It's a picture. Now, no, Garrett's the other one, the first one. You kind of gave it away. You don't have the first one? Oh, okay. All right. That just took everything out of my wins there. All right, so there, Leanne Cook photographed a deadly venomous snake, Stevens banded snake in Maitland, Australia. And the circle is the snake. And if you have to look so close at the bark, I mean incredibly close. And you could not see it. Paul, could you see it when I said it? You and Craig,
no, I just saw you sent me a picture of a tree.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on here?
And I didn't see it. And I never saw it until somebody on the thread eventually pointed out that it was in the crease of bark. And this one apparently is an incredibly deadly, venomous Stevens banded snake.
That's why when you're out in the bush in Australia, you got to be super careful. So I need like a Crocodile Dundee guy with you all the time.
Yeah, it almost looks like the snake is blurred on that picture, and that's the one. So thanks to Lane. And then TJ sent me one of a boa constrictor that was packed to the gills, Paul, with what?
A grandma.
A missing grandmother, which is not funny. But TJ sent me snake pictures. That's what we get. When we come back, it's a little bit offbeat right there. Jeff Pearlman, New York Times best-selling author. He's written the book about Bo Jackson, the last folk hero, the life and myth of Bo Jackson, and that's next on 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. I was going to have my teeth cleaning today, and they do that every 6 months, but it has been pushed back until January, and that's okay because I feel better about where I am. Back in the day, if I would have had a teeth cleaning even set up or any kind of appointment, and they would have told me and reminded me, I would have found a reason not to go because I knew something would be found because I didn't take care of my dental work. And that's why I've had crowns put in 2 crowns put in recently. And then also root canals and so much more. But I've been kind of smarter, making up for lost time. Dr. Steve Childress does a great job and his staff at Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. So I'll get that teeth cleaning sometime in January, but I feel better about it, and I'm not as worried about it. It wasn't pushed back because I canceled. It's pushed back because it just needs to be done in January. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas, where you can get your teeth cleaning and even more if you need, whether it's root canals or cavities filled or what you need to keep your dental work good and solid and maybe even perfect. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Hey. He's remarkable, and look at that one. Bo Jackson says hello.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
3rd and 1 from the 2. Here's Bo.
here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Jeff Pearlman is an author, New York Times bestseller. He's written some great sports books and has done some interviews that also have opened the eyes of many people who follow sports, cover sports, or like sports. And he now joins us today on 365 Sports on his book about Bo Jackson. Jeff Pearlman will join us on Skype today on 365 Sports. The book is called The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. And Jeff, thanks for your time on 365 Sports. So he has been retired for a long, long time. When did this book kind of come into your head?
I mean, I guess about 3 years ago when I was sort of thinking about the next book. I started thinking about being a kid growing up in small town New York and what posters were on my wall and what were the athletes who really captured my imagination. And I'd say Bo Jackson was very high on that list, poster-wise and imagination-wise. And I'm very nostalgic, probably like you guys are about sports. It takes you back to places. It makes you feel certain things. So I just really was into the idea of diving back into my childhood.
Jeff, I was obsessed with Bo Jackson when I was younger. In 1991, when he got signed by the White Sox, we were living in Fort Myers, Florida. We drove up to Sarasota to see him play minor league baseball. I made my dad take me back a day after a rainout so that I could see him play baseball with his new hip and all that. But the way that you frame this as a folk hero and Paul Bunyan, and a lot of the stories you hear about Bo are Davy Crockett-esque stories. When you got into researching that and going into Alabama and talking to these people, did you really feel like you were talking about a guy who didn't really exist?
I love the Davy Crockett usage. So far I've heard Davy Crockett, Paul Bunyan, John Henry, and Zeus are the main. And yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, you know, there's this story that's been, was told to me early on that when he was playing at McAdory High School in Alabama, he played a game where he hit a ball so high that by the time it came down in left field, he was rounding third base. And, you hear that kind of story and you think, well, that doesn't make sense. That's ridiculous. That's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And then you talk to more people and they say, no, that happened. You talk to more people and they say that happened. And then I tracked down Eddie Scott, the guy who was playing left field for Fairfield High School. And he's like, yep, that happened. I was in left field. I've never seen a ball hit that high. By the time it came down, I look up, I grab the ball, look up, Bo was rounding third. So, yeah, it's like Paul Bunyan if Paul Bunyan were real. I mean, it's crazy.
Jeff, what was a young Bo like before becoming the guy that would become the folk hero, the legendary figure that can do things that not many people can do? Where did this all sort of start when you started researching this?
I mean, it started in Bessemer, Alabama. Poor, kid had a severe stutter, was held back in school, very young in elementary school. One of 10 kids living under a roof in a 3-room house, single mom. His dad was named A.D. Adams. He had Bo while he was married to another woman, lived across town with his other family, had very little to do with Bo. Bo would wear his sister's hand-me-down shoes to school or just socks if he didn't have shoes. Really poor, like really, really poor. And an athletically gifted kid who, it's kind of funny, like you don't see it anymore this way because none of our kids play a million sports or just run around the neighborhood with their friends. They're all on their phones. But he was a kid who was like throwing crab apples with his friends, throwing rocks with his friends, jumping over ditches, jumping over fences. And he really developed as an athlete just by living a kid's life in the most sort of typical yet atypical way.
Part of this, and I saw today also on SI.com the story with Bo Jackson, the Bucks, Tampa Bay, were once handed a unicorn running back, and here's how they blew it. And the background story about he was, playing baseball. He had a flight. He didn't pay for it. And Auburn got nervous. Is that correct? And then it traces back. Does it trace back to Hugh Culverhouse, the owner of Tampa Bay?
Yeah, it's such garbage in hindsight. So basically, he was playing baseball at Auburn. It was his senior year. He was done with football. He loved baseball. And Buccaneers say, we want to fly you in because we're about to have the #1 pick. We'd like to give you a physical. So Bo had an agent, which you weren't supposed to have, but he had an agent, and he dealt with the Bucs, and the Bucs sent a plane for him and flew him. And Hal Baird was the Auburn baseball coach. And before game, he's like, where's Bo? And another player's like, he's in Tampa. They flew him there. The Bucs flew him there. Hal Baird's like, they did what? And they had to, Hal Baird and Pat Dye, the football coach, who was also the AD, reported it to the SEC. And here's why it's such garbage. Like the SEC said he's ineligible. He can't play baseball anymore. Like the worst kept secret in college sports was that pretty much every SEC team was paying players one way or another. You know, like it would not shock any of you guys to know that most of the players in the SEC in the 1980s were getting money, cash payouts. But him taking a plane ride from the Buccaneers that, you know, had to kill his eligibility. So that happens. He blames his agent, who no longer was representing him, and he blamed the Bucs and thought they were doing it deliberately to screw with him. So that led him to a very open-minded idea of playing baseball, and the Royals used a 4th-round pick on him, and the rest is history. He never played for the Buccaneers.
Jeff, I remember his book when it came out, Bono's Bow, that he wrote with Dick Schaap years ago. And I'm sure as you read that, I'm sure a couple different times to get what his perspective was 30 years ago, writing that, opposed to what his perspective is now. I remember him thinking that, and I'm not sure that Hugh Culverhouse wasn't a racist, but Hugh Culverhouse was a racist and that he wanted him as some sort of mascot and all these things. Does he still feel that way? And did he ever amend how he felt about the Bucs, or is that still how that all went down?
I don't think he gives a crap now in 2022. Yeah. I don't think he harbors anything. Hugh Culverhouse is long dead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he hated the Buccaneers. Like he truly, truly blamed them, thought that they were deliberately trying to get him to lose his baseball eligibility so he wouldn't have a baseball option. It's really warped. I honestly think it was mainly a miscommunication, because why would the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had the number 1 pick. They secured it. Why would you deliberately piss off the guy who's going to come to you? It doesn't make any sense in logic standpoint. But he never let that go, ever let that go. Hated the Buccaneers. There's a time the Buccaneers wind up drafting him number 1 anyway, against all logic and reason. They thought they could buy him and have him come. And Bo's agents convinced him to go to Tampa Bay, meet with the press, meet with the Bucs. And Steve Young, who was a quarterback on the Bucs at the time, told me a story. Hugh Culverhouse and Steve Young took Bo out for dinner. And Culverhouse said, all right, I'm going to leave you two alone. And he wanted Steve Young to work the sales on Bo Jackson. Culverhouse leaves the table, and Bo leans into Steve and says, listen, man, just so you know, there's no effing way I'm ever playing for this team. And Steve Young's like, okay, then I guess my job here is done. And he never played for the Bucs.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how much NIL money Bo could have scored in today's man alive.
How about that? Wait, 2 things. He would have been making $5 million, $10 million a year. And if he played with the Buccaneers, their backfield would have been Steve Young at quarterback and Bo Jackson at running back.
And would have set them up forever.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Jeff, you've written some other books, and I want to not just get away from the Bo book, because that's what we're promoting, but
I'm happy to.
Walter Payton, the 86 Mets, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, the Showtime Lakers, and I know there's others, I think Brett Favre, among some others. You've picked some guys that have not always been the most popular. Bo Jackson's incredibly popular. You've picked some other ones that are, people who don't like them, or there's a lot of angst about them. How much have you enjoyed that?
I mean, look, if someone wants to pay me to write a book about, like, I don't know, Willie Randolph, I'm happy to do it. But the reality is, like, people do enjoy reading about, like, there's something about iconic figures and iconic teams who had highs and lows and controversy and success. And, that's what sports history fascinates people in sports history. You could write, there are a million Donald Trump books and Barack Obama books on the market. There aren't many books out there about their Secretary of States.
All right.
There's a reason for that. People like the splashy, and Bo Jackson, to me, just like the Lakers, just like Favre, he's consequential. He means more. He wasn't just a second baseman for the Kansas City Royals. He was an iconic figure. And I do gravitate toward those types of people.
So Winning Time is now an HBO show, which I'm sure as a writer is an entirely new joy to see your work adapted. Jerry West was very upset with his portrayal on the show, which I would say the first episode, might be mad if I was Jerry West, but the way that Jerry West kind of ends up in the show, which is adapted to make an HBO show and not necessarily 100% down the line of what you wrote, I thought he came out pretty well. Have you talked to Jerry West? Is he still mad about that? I thought it was kind of strange that he was upset after episode 1, but didn't want to wait until episode 6, 7. He kind of starts to turn and grow as a character.
I agree. I haven't I'm not friends with Jerry West. Yeah. I've written about him a bunch, but he's not like my buddy where I have him on speed dial. To be totally honest, number one, I always say, I 100% get when people do not like portrayals of themselves. Like, I get it. We all see ourselves a certain way. And also, like, you're Jerry West, you're watching HBO. Here's this guy playing me. Like, that's weird. You know, that has to be weird. Like, there's no Jeff Pearlman character on TV. Maybe I'd feel the same way. But having written about Jerry West a lot, also having read his autobiography, which, by the way, is one of the best sports autobiographies ever, West by West, I thought it was a pretty fair portrayal. He was manic. He couldn't watch his team play. He was full of rage and anxiety, you know? So I get how it's weird. I understand if someone doesn't like it, but I loved Jason Clarke as Jerry West. I really did. So he can feel how he wants. He has every right to. That's nothing against him. I don't share that take.
You know, by the way, a good friend of mine, Eric Horton, is a great friend of mine. He's from Bessemer, Alabama, and I just sent him a text that he has to go read the book too, because he's from there, and he used to talk about Bo Jackson. He's about my age, though. As far as Bo as a dual sport guy, and we know he was eventually knocked down because of the hip injury, would you take Bo or Dion? And I know there's some older ones like Jim Thorpe, among others, who were dual sport guys. Two different type personalities, but your thoughts about those two?
I mean, longevity-wise, I would take Dion, obviously. Bo is a far superior baseball player to Deion Sanders. Far superior, not even in the same stratosphere. Football-wise, if Bo had played a full career, he would, you know, in the same way Dion is a legendary NFL player, Bo would have been a legendary NFL player. I'd say they're equals as far as football. One was obviously a defensive back, one was a running back. But baseball, Bo is so far superior. And also track and field, Bo is so far superior. So overall, I am going with Bo, but that's no slight on Dion. He's one of the greats of all time.
You know, Smoak, you just mentioned Jim Thorpe. And when I was a kid, we learned about Jim Thorpe in a history book.
Yep.
And Bo Jackson, we won't get that with Bo Jackson because, I mean, but really based on the same standards of the 1980s and what Bo Jackson meant to not only sports, but business. I mean, the guy had a freaking cartoon with Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky, for crying out loud. Like, this is a dude that should be, you know, you should maybe at least mention when you talk about, you know, world-changing athletes.
Oh, I 100% agree. And look, Jim Thorpe, also Native American, a really fascinating background that deserves everything. And David Marinus has a great book out now about Jim Thorpe that's wonderful and worth reading. It bothers me that, like, my kids would not know Bo Jackson except that they have a dad who wrote a book about Bo Jackson. And most kids, people coming up now, if you were to say to a modern sports fan, who's the greatest athlete? They'd be like LeBron James, you know, or maybe they'd say Michael Phelps, or maybe they'd say Michael Jordan because they own Air Jordans and they've heard enough. But no one under the age of 30 would name my Bo Jackson, and they'd all be wrong. He is the greatest athlete of all time. There isn't even that much debate. He was faster than the fastest. He was stronger than the strongest. When he was in the NFL for those brief periods of time, he was the best running back. When he was in baseball, he was one of the best baseball players. He could have been an Olympic runner. He just simply is the best athlete who ever lived. And I think that's enough that you should be, at least in sports history, aware of his existence.
Harper Collins, again, the folk hero, the life and myth of Bo Jackson. Would you mind, Jeff, sharing? I love the story about draft night, where now everything's about, you know, people and got these cameras that you can see them no matter where they are, whatever round it might be. They can talk to them immediately because of how we're talking with you on Zoom or whatever. And Bo Jackson didn't know until when that he was actually drafted?
I mean, you're talking about the Royals. I think it was 2 or 3 days later. He was on vacation, and he's back on campus at Auburn. And some student is like, hey, did you hear you're drafted by the Royals? And he's like, oh, I didn't know. And then he called his agent. Like, he literally didn't know. His whole existence is kind of like that. For someone who you would think would be so impressed by his own exploits, never seemed that impressed by his own exploits. And like, oh, I'm drafted. All right, that's cool. Oh, I'll go to Kansas City. That's cool. I just ran for 91 yards on Monday Night Football on a single run down the sideline. Oh, that's cool. He just was never. And what's neat about him is nowadays you'll never see Bo Jackson ripping Derrick Henry, and you'll never see him watching the Royals and saying, these guys stink. They should do it like we did it. He's not that guy. He's unimpressed.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of, like, he does bike rides. I know he's a big time hunter now. What is Bo Jackson now in 2022 for people who haven't, you know, tried to follow him? And he's not, you know, out there, you know, talking about the good old days. People like you have to go and find him and talk about the good old days.
Well, first of all, he paid for a lot of the funerals for the Uvalde families, the victims of the Uvalde family, which speaks to his character, obviously. Does a charity bike race, as you said, Bo Bikes Mama. He has a lot of companies in food distribution, food processing. He dabbled a little in acting. Every year he'll show up either as a spring training instructor for the Royals or the White Sox. He pops up on an occasional sports talk show. He was on with Rich Eisen the other day. But mostly he lives in suburban Chicago. He's a dad of 3. He's a grandpa. He's been married to his wife, Linda, for almost 40 years. He shovels his own driveway. He drives his own Ford truck. He's kind of the everyman. He just decided once he got hurt, okay, I'm moving on. And he moved on.
How much did he spend time and cooperate when you were writing about this?
Almost none. He, early on when I decided I wanted to write about this, I sent him a letter and a couple of my books. He called me a few days later. We talked for a half hour-ish. He was very, very nice. And he basically said, I don't mind you doing a book about me, but I have no interest in talking about this stuff. I don't want to do it. I've been approached before, blah, blah, blah. And I got actually really lucky because in 1990, he came out with an autobiography, Bo Knows Bo, which was really good. It was written by Dick Schaap, the late journalist. And before he died, Dick Schaap donated all his notes and all the audio transcripts to the Auburn University Library. I didn't even know this existed. And I paid $250 and had them all sent to me. And it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of 28-year-old Bo Jackson talking about everything. Most of it never made the book. So I ended up with this access to Bo Jackson in the prime of his life, talking about everything. So I sometimes you get lucky in this business.
Hey, no, but that's luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and you found out about it and took advantage of that as well. Jeff Pearlman, is there one book you've written that you like more than any others?
This one's very high up there. I wrote a book about the United States Football League, which was the alternative league to the NFL from 83 to 85. That was a book that everyone said you shouldn't do. No one's going to buy it. It's not. Nobody cares. But it had so many amazing characters in it, including Donald Trump as owner of the New Jersey Generals, Herschel Walker, Doug Flutie, Sam Mills. And I wrote it, and it made the New York Times list. And I just really felt good about that because everyone told me not to write it. Oh, I really wanted to.
Football for a Buck is one of my favorites, Jeff. I loved it. We have a friend you interviewed in it, Mark Addix, was a Baylor guy. Yeah, Mark Addix. He's a Baylor guy, so we know him really well. He was in the book, as many other people we've kind of come across. Anytime we have somebody that was in that book, I will ask him about that book on the show because I love that book. I've read it twice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a great book.
You've read it two more times than my mother. So I wish I were joking. I'm not joking.
Jeff, is writing a book sometimes, however long it takes, is it almost like preparing to run in a marathon where after that you're gassed and you just need to take a break, or do you just get right back into something else?
Okay, so I have run a lot of marathons, actually. Before I hurt my back, I was a runner. And I would say there are some definite similarities. The biggest one is this. Like, you get to mile 18 of a marathon, which is obviously 26 miles, and you tell yourself, if I finish this alive, I'm never going to do this again. Right? Every marathon you do, you hit the wall, you hit the wall, never going to do this again. And I remember finishing a New York marathon, and it was pouring rain, and I'm walking through this, line afterwards to get my food. And I was like, if God could strike me down right now, I would take it. I am in such pain. I'm miserable. Take me. I feel that way after every book is done. I'm like, this was so hard. It took so long. But also, like a marathon, 2 days later, I'm like, okay, what's the next marathon I can run? So it's sort of like that. You get addicted to it. You get really into it. It's painful. It's long. It's arduous. But then you want to do it again.
Jeff, thank you very much. Great book. Again, the book is The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson, HarperCollins, available pretty much everywhere. It's also on SI.com, a story about the Buccaneers screwing that up, that they could have had Steve Young and also Bo Jackson. Thank you, Jeff. Have a great week.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. New York Times bestseller, Jeff Pearlman. Paul, great stuff in getting him lined up.
I'm a big fan of his work. I've read Football for a Buck a couple of times. I read the book about Favre. I've not read the book about Walter Payton, but if I have an opportunity to read a Jeff Pearlman book as a sports fan, he does such a good job and of coming at it from every angle. And again, if you're not a Bo Jackson fan, I promise you might be after you read the book. The way that Jeff writes and the way he tells stories is so good and so much detail and so full. The Football for a Buck book, I will tell you, had me on the floor laughing sometimes about And there's stuff he couldn't use. The best written opening paragraph to a sports book ever is, and I've memorized it, this is a book about the United States Football League. It could, if there were a market for such things, be a book about the San Antonio Gunslingers, who were so ridiculous that I don't have enough pages to tell the stories about how bad the San Antonio Gunslingers were.
Wow. Yeah, I remember we've had somebody on. It wasn't Jeff. It was a couple of times when we've had people who were a part of the USFL. Great book. You can do it. It kind of covers everything from Auburn, from college athletics to the NFL draft, the baseball draft. And he was like I don't know where he was overseas, but he was just chilling on a vacation when the draft. And there's a big debate about, are we going to take a risk by using a first-round pick on a guy that's going to play football? And there's a big backstory about that as well. You still see that debate even today. This is 365 Sports. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys is next.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Got a lot of great deals, as always, over at Richard Carr. The people that you can count on. I had a couple of dings and bumps and dents and whatnot in my car after a couple of minor accidents that I was in over the last year. And even though I didn't buy my car originally from Richard Carr, they were the people that I counted on to fix what needed to be fixed, and went through the process with them and walked away feeling like I had bought my car there originally. Just tremendous customer service from Donnie and the good folks over there. Car's running really nicely. Haven't had any problems since, knock on wood. And hopefully I don't have to see them too soon. But if I am in the market for a new car at any point here in the near future, then I will be heading over to the people you can count on over at Richard Carr because of the way they've treated me previously. And I know that they'll treat you well if you're in the market. And if you are, well, they've got new cars, they've got pre-owned cars. The wait is over as far as the new goes. Cars, trucks, SUVs have hit the lot. 2022 Sierras, Acadias, Terrains, all from the GMC line, are sitting there waiting for you to test drive today. They've also got Cadillac XT4 and XT5 SUVs available for test drives, but inventory is going fast, so check out the selection while it's at its best right now over on the lot. They've also got the GMC Sierra, offers best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior, massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, premium comfort, the works. That's just one of the models and one of the options they have over there at the dealership. But perhaps the exact truck or SUV you're looking for is not on the lot. Perhaps they don't have it in stock. Well, get on their inbound vehicle list, and that's basically like a placeholder. It's like standing in line to be up next, to be first come, first serve for when that vehicle of your choosing does arrive. And to find the right vehicle, let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and they will have GMC prioritize it for you. So again, circling back to that great customer service. They've got new trucks on the lot, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. They've got the inbound vehicle list to make sure that you get whatever it is that you are looking for. And if you want to drive your current car longer, they also have award-winning service and collision repair, as I can attest to personally and mentioned at the very top. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Cowboys and the Bears. Cowboys coming off that win where they finally separated against Detroit. And yet the NFC East is packed at the top with Philly, New York, and Dallas. Mickey, thanks for your time. What's your gut thought about Ezekiel Elliott availability this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's questionable. I know he hasn't practiced Wednesday or today, but I saw him doing the rehab work on the resisting cords. And usually when those guys are doing that, it's somewhat of an indication that they're kind of moving okay, because I'm thinking if it was really bad, he wouldn't be doing that yet. So I'm sure they'll take it through Saturday and maybe even right up to how he warms up Sunday morning for that noon start. But, just knowing Zeke and his nature, and he doesn't miss games unless he's suspended. And he said the other day he felt like, when he played through the injury last year, it was his obligation and to his team. And he ended it with, if you don't play just because you're hurt, then that's soft. So we'll see where this one goes.
Mickey, do you think the team, though, might want to protect Zeke from himself coming up on the bye? This is a team that can not probably, but I don't want to just make assumptions. Be careful
now. Be careful.
This is maybe they can use Tony Pollard a little bit more this week, and they can keep him fresh down the stretch, because last year it was really hard to watch Zeke down the stretch, play as slow as he was with as much pain as he was clearly in.
Yeah, but this is not the same injury, right? No two injuries are alike. That was a sprained posterior cruciate ligament, and the only thing that fixes that is rest. This one, I've gotten about 3 different answers of what he has. When I asked him, I said, "Can you clear this up? Do you have a sprained knee, or do you got a contusion?" He goes, "Yeah, all that." I said, "Okay, thanks." So, he got hit on the knee. So, I don't think teams think the way, us journalists think. It's like, well, we don't need him this week. This is the Bears. No, you saw what happened with the Bears last week, right? And I don't know if that was the blue moon after losing 3 straight games, but you don't take anybody for granted. I mean, my gosh, they were losing 6-3 to the Lions at halftime, right? So if a guy can go, then he goes. I don't think they play coy and go, well, let's let him rest and we get the bye. I don't think that'll factor into the decision whatsoever. If he can play, he plays. If he can't, then he can use the bye and be ready for Green Bay.
So, Mickey, they win the game. The defense is swarming. They're creating turnovers and really at a level that is fantastic as well. What are they not doing well enough on defense, in your opinion?
They're not stopping the run on a consistent basis. And here we go with the Bears, Paul, by the way. They're the number 1 rushing offense in the league. Mm-hmm. And beating New England, they went for 243, and the quarterback went for 82. So that's one of the reasons, David, I think you saw them make that, kind of minimal trade for, Jonathan Hankins to get a big body in the middle of that defense. Now, I don't know, a guy that's 330 pounds, how many snaps he can play a game. But if you can get him out there on first and second down to just kind of muck things up in the middle, I mean, they really don't have a true one technique defensive tackle. And if you can put that big body in the middle, and believe me, after I saw him, it is big. Then and the Cowboys used to have a trouble with that guy when he was with the Giants, getting that load out of the way. So I think the number one thing to me going into this game for the defense is they got to play better defensively. They've let way too many teams run for more than the Lions did for 117 yards. If you look at what happened with Philadelphia, they had 136, I want to say. The game before that, it was 142. Just too many rushing yards, which makes third down usually a lot easier. And the last thing they need to do against the Bears is to make third down and short easier for Justin Fields, because, he basically played the game of his career on Monday night. That's probably, Bears fans will tell you, that's the best that he's played since he's been there. So they don't need to make it easy on him. They're number 1 in rushing offense, and they're number 32 in passing offense. So go figure.
And they just lost to Washington the weekend before, so it's not like, again, Washington, we know the Commanders are not even average, so it's the up and down of pro football. Mickey, your thoughts about Robert Quinn to the Eagles?
Yeah, I love the reaction of the people here, especially Mike McCarthy and Dak when they heard Quinn wasn't going to play here Sunday. It was like, okay, great, and then it's like, oh no, wait a minute, he went to the Eagles. We got to face them again. But he is not having the season he had the previous year when he had 18.5 sacks. Right? I think he's got 1 sack so far this year. He's got a lot of pressures, and it sure looked on Monday night he was a pain for that left tackle for New England. They're going to have to face him, but let's hope they get the 1 sack, Robert Quinn.
Mickey, how much do you think we'll see even a more expanded plethora of things for Dak to do in the offense as he gets comfortable, maybe gets Michael Gallup more involved, all these different things that didn't happen week 1, but I don't think anybody should have expected it to.
Well, I think if you look at the stark difference between the first half and the second half, then, yeah, you should expect that because, I think the first half, and I mean, we talked about it last week, I think that it takes a while for the quarterback going to go play his first game in 6 weeks to simulate to the game speed. You don't get that in practice. I'm sorry, not the way they play. You're not in jeopardy of getting hit in practice. The speed is just not the same. And really, it was a short week. So they only got really one good full practice. Well, now it's a full week. And I think you saw the difference between the first half and the second half, right? The second half, he completed 10 of 11 passes for 103 yards and 1 touchdown, and his quarterback rating was 136. So I think things moved along, and I would think they'll move along even more going into this game, providing the offensive line can do a nice job of blocking and they don't get behind the chains too many times against a fairly good Bears defense, making third downs more difficult. So I don't know that they expand the offense because it looked expanded to me. Did you see those passes down the middle that almost got intercepted? It wasn't like they were being real conservative, or at least Dak wasn't being conservative. He might have been a little overconfident in what he can do. But no, I mean, they understand that, if they can run the ball the way they've been, all fine and good, but the passing game has to pick up. You've got to score points in this league. I'm sorry, even though scoring's down this year and you're playing good defense, you still need to be, I think, averaging 25 to 28 points a game. And what's the most they've scored so far? 25, I think that's right. They need to be better offensively and not have to rely on the defense to put them in such good situations with the takeaways like they did in the Detroit game.
Couple of things and then a question to follow it up. Jamar Chase out 4 to 6 weeks, hip injury. Lazard of Green Bay likely I'm sorry, am I taking up some of your stuff? Sorry, Craig. Packers receiver. I bring that up because obviously if the Cowboys were to make a trade, and I'm not saying they will, which position do you think they would rather, if they wanted to bolster, which one would it be?
Well, defensive tackle, right?
Well, because of the running game, right?
Because they did it.
Yeah.
They did it with Jonathan Hankins.
Sure.
Now, after that, it would probably be wide receiver. Now, this week, and very few people have asked about this, but Noah Brown hasn't practiced the last 2 days with a foot injury, which means if he can't go, then your third receiver is Jalen Tolbert, the rookie, and he hasn't had that many snaps. So I think you would say wide receiver. But again, after the bye, I think they get James Washington back. He's kind of the forgotten man, right? And when they traded for him, signed him, in free agency, I go, well, that's a really good pickup because this guy didn't get that big of an opportunity in Pittsburgh. But I remember, I don't know if you guys remember him at Oklahoma State. He was pretty darn good. And he had some speed, down the field speed. He says he's still got that. So if they get him back out there, that's almost like a trade. I just think if it's a trade, David, it'll be for, I don't know, like they did, a 5th, 6th, 7th round draft pick, which I don't know what you're going to get for that. But I don't think it'll be a blockbuster that a guy comes in here and is, Amari Cooper that's going to save the day.
Mickey, thank you, sir, very much. Mickey Spagnola with us Thursdays around 4:20, 4:30. DallasCowboys.com, Cowboys and the Bears coming up, and, of course, the stretch drive into November soon after that. When we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. At the 5 o'clock hour, we open up with Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive. Anything he's seen of interest while he's been out on a big cruise, he's back to reality, that and more. Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. Operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, You don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. For those just joining us, a little bit of a stop down to just talk and take a look at a handful of grab bag type of stories. Won't always include college football, but if there's something to lump in there, I certainly will, even though the bulk of what we talk about is college football. So that's technically on the radar, but there's some things that we slipped through the cracks. But this is mostly going to be some pro stuff over the next few minutes, just various things going on right now to check in on. And as a matter of fact, we just talked to Jeff Pearlman about his Bo Jackson book, and Bo Jackson got interviewed recently, and one of the interesting takeaways from it was his support for Deion Sanders, as a coach, and him moving up the ladder and eventually finding himself at Bo's alma mater of Auburn, and how he would be all in favor of that. He was asked in an interview with USA Today about the possibility of Deion as Auburn head coach. That was, something when Brian Harson's hot seat first started to be talked about, and as it gradually picked up steam and smoke got thicker, and it continues to actually grow now. But That was a name that initially I remember being tossed out there because I think he's going to probably be thrown out there for most jobs nowadays. But it will be fascinating to see which one is the one that eventually pulls him in. But Bo Jackson on Deion Sanders in USA Today said Deion can coach anywhere in the country, college or professional level that he wants to. It's just whether or not the organization is ready for prime. You can look at what he's done for Jackson State. In the short amount of time he's been there, he has the charisma. He has what it takes because Deion, like myself, we were coached old school, and that's the way he's coaching his players. You're seeing the results, and Jackson State's off to a terrific start. I believe they're 7-0, and so we're going to get to hear a lot about Deion, I think, in this coaching carousel, in particular with Auburn. I don't know how realistic that really is, but it's going to be talked about at least on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever. Maybe not Facebook, but you know what I'm
sure it will.
I'm sure. Yeah, you know what? It will.
Yeah.
It definitely will. But
probably not in the way it needs to be. But I'm sure it will.
Yeah, exactly. But so there's Bo Jackson with a vote of support, if you will, for Deion if the Auburn Tigers were to go that direction. For what it's worth, only 2 black head coaches in SEC history. You had Sylvester Croom at Alabama, James Franklin at Vanderbilt.
Croom was at Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, excuse me, Mississippi State. But yeah, James Franklin at Vanderbilt, and that's it. I believe that's the list. So could Deion be the next one? He's for sure going to be a head coach somewhere, and I'm very curious to see where that is.
I do think, and this might be just spitballing, but Auburn's alumni are a circus, right? It's kind of crazy. The behind-the-scenes stuff.
From our perspective,
I mean, that's what it seems like and what the perception
Cole
is.
Klubik told us that, too.
Yeah, that there's just too much, immediate gratification. They want a microwave of a coach and all that. And maybe you get that a little bit more in this era. But if there's a person who can navigate the circus because he is also a circus, and I don't mean that necessarily all negatively, it's Deion Sanders. Look at Deion. He's prime. He's Coach Prime. That's what he's building a brand. He's doing all this stuff. So if there's someone who can, and honestly, who are these guys? Because Deion's worked, NFL owners and all this stuff. Who are some of these rich Auburn folks that he's going to be intimidated by?
I think that's where he can find some trouble too, though. I'm Prime. Well, we're the boosters. Well, yeah, and I can see where that. So you really do have to have the right situation.
It's a runway that he's either going to land smoothly on, or it would probably crash and burn, depending on both sides.
Derek Mason, Vanderbilt, also was in the SEC.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Somebody just put that up in the chat room. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see with Deion, but very interested to see where he eventually goes, how long he remains at Jackson State, and where we go from there. No baseball tonight, but starting tomorrow, it'll be World Series game number 1 down in Houston, Philadelphia. The Phillies at the Astros, going to have game 1 on Friday night, and Aaron Nola versus Justin Verlander is now the announced matchup. The announced matchup for game number 2 on Saturday night. Both those broadcasts on Fox, both those games in Houston. It'll be Zach Wheeler, and still deciding on the Astros side of thing who will get the mound in game number 2. But Nola versus Verlander, Phillies versus Astros down in H-Town starting tomorrow. What is y'all's interest level in this year's showcase?
It's a World Series. Will I be glued to it? No. There's some storylines here. The Astros are trying to win another World Series and be able to then say stuff it, and don't think that's not a part of it. They may say it's not, but it is.
Sure.
The Phillies would be an incredible story, bouncing back at the end and getting hot and what they did. Were they wild card? They were, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Braves and Mets in the same division. So they've made a hell of a run. Bryce Harper, does he have a World Series ring?
No.
There you go, trying to tap off what is already.
Didn't he with the Nationals?
Oh, yeah, he would
have.
Oh,
yes, he did. Okay, well, I look at sometimes the elite players, and if they won a ring or not, doesn't mean they have to, but it sure doesn't hurt. But yeah, I'll pay attention.
Yeah, right. I'm interested in it. I don't know who I want. Usually I pick a team that I kind of want to win. But again, I have a an aversion to rooting for teams from Philly and the Astros as well. So I might just watch for the enjoyment of it. There's great players in this on both. Like, it's not just Bryce Harper and Jose Altuve and Yordan out. All that. The Phillies are loaded. The Astros are loaded. There's good players on both sides.
Philadelphia's, they're really. It's been a fun story. But so you didn't like Dr. J and the Philadelphia 76ers, or were you too young to know?
I was too young.
All right.
Elsewhere, the Yankees have announced owner Hal Steinbrenner that they plan to keep Aaron Boone as manager next year. So that coming out of Tampa today. As far as Boone's concerned, we just signed him, and for all the same reasons I listed a year ago, I believe he's a very good manager. I don't see a change here. Steinbrenner said as he left the Yankees offices there down in Tampa, they had signed him to a 3-year deal with an option for 25 just last October. So as a Red Sox side of thing guy, what do you think about Boone and the Yankees?
Good. I think he's doing a good job.
Was there any drama?
There's always drama. It's the Yankees. But
I know that the Aaron Judge
here's
contract.
Here's
and all
the
that.
good news about the younger Steinbrenners. They are not as bombastic as their father.
No, they're not.
So there's less drama with the Yankees now. The drama that happens with the Yankees is when they have a 4-game losing streak, 30 newspapers are there going, "Dear God, what happened?" And it's been a long time. It's been 13 years now since they've won a World Series, 2009. So it's getting longer and longer. They had a team that was looking like that, especially early in the season, but it became clear after about July 20th, maybe even before then, the Astros were a deeper team than the Yankees. They had some injuries. They did some things. They've got to keep Aaron Boone, and there's no doubt in my mind that they will. But, I think Aaron Boone is good. I think I say Aaron Judge, but I think Aaron Boone's been good for them. I don't think he's been a bad manager at all.
Yeah, I was just curious, kind of your thoughts, having seen so much crossover with them, and yeah, the Aaron Judge things now need to be ironed out. I mean, that's one of the big priorities. So we'll see. But yeah, he's coming back as Yankees skipper. That's just one of the other notes from.
One more thing on baseball, if you don't mind. The Rob Thompson's the interim manager, isn't he? Philadelphia. Did he take over when Girardi? Girardi was fired. They were 22-29. He's gone 65-46, not including the playoffs, and I'd never really heard much about him.
That's
so what a great
one of the biggest storylines right there is the fact that they turned it around after changing managers. But that's one of the interesting things about this series. Elsewhere in the NFL, Jamar Chase is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a hip injury. So the Bengals wide receiver not practicing, listed on the team's injury report. So he is going to be out for some time. And elsewhere, the Chiefs just got faster. Hard to imagine. They lost Cheetah, of course, in the offseason, Tyreek Hill. But now Kadarius Toney heading on over from the New York Giants, in exchange for a 2023 third-round compensatory pick and a 2023 sixth-round pick. So Kadarius Toney to the Giants, Jamar Chase to the injury side of things for the next month.
All right, one thing about that is that so that's Kansas City. They're going to pick the last 4 to 5 picks in each round, right? So that's where you're going to pick. But they got some pretty good collateral with that.
Yeah, well, and Kadarius Toney hasn't played for the Giants this year. Brian Daboll, I don't think, liked him. It was the previous regime's last first-round draft pick. He's shown a lot of potential, but just for whatever reason with the Giants, they need wide receivers, and they let him go. So I think that's telling. But I also think, if you're going to get something out of a dude with speed who can do the things that Kadarius Toney can do, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, that crew, Eric Bieniemy, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they're like Alabama for coaching rehab. It's like they just take whatever guys maybe not getting the most juice squeezed, and they bring him on board, and I'm sure he'll be lighting it up in no time because he will be used in a pretty unique and probably entertaining way, given all the other offensive weapons they have. So, yeah, it's been a very forgettable start for him ever since being a first-round pick just a couple of drafts ago. Played in just 12 games since he was a 2021 pick. But I'm sure he's celebrating today because he's headed off to go play with one of the great Super Bowl contenders in the Chiefs. So, yeah, Kadarius Toney to Kansas City. As I mentioned, Jamar Chase to the IR. That's news for the fantasy football folks, of course. Later on tonight in the NFL, we're going to have Ravens and Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon, of course, you can watch that. Although been based on what I've seen, ratings going down every single week for Amazon's Thursday night game. But Ravens-Buccaneers, much better matchup than they've had some of these other weeks. So this one, I'll be very curious to see how many eyeballs get pulled in, because that's way bigger than some of the other games they've hosted. I mean, if they don't get a good number for Ravens-Buccaneers, then I bet there's some talk that continues to grow as far as like how great this really is, this Amazon Thursday night slate or setup.
Well, I just think Amazon's going to start pressing the NFL on making better games. Look, Tom Brady versus the Ravens is a pretty good TV matchup. It's not that Colts-Broncos game that was such a dud. But look, when they gave them the Colts-Broncos in the offseason, like that turned out it was going to be Russell Wilson versus Matt Ryan. Now, 4 years ago, heck yeah, let's do that game. But, Father Time waits for no man. And so it wound up being a total dud. So I think Amazon will press the NFL for, hey, if we're going to do this and pay $1 billion, then we need some of the better ones and not duds.
Yeah, and then like a lot of these things, it's like with streaming companies, like so much of it's secretive as far as like who's actually viewing what, and there's not like concrete data necessarily. So maybe they're still satisfied with the numbers. I don't know, but obviously people are taking note of, okay, it keeps dropping. When does it kind of hit that point where it's just sort of a median, and what can get it to rise again? And so you would think there's a pretty safe bet that there could be a rise in those numbers with Brady versus the Ravens. Meanwhile, 2 games in college football tonight on your television sets on ESPN and FS1 over on ESPN. You'll have Virginia Tech at number 24, North Carolina State. And then over on FS1, the late kick, Pac-12 after dark, not quite late as usual, but getting close to it. You have the nightcap, number 14 Utah on the road against Washington State over on FS1. So, yeah, a couple of college games and the NFL game and a lot of other stuff going on. World Series starting tomorrow. NBA regular season's in full swing. So there's a few things off the radar.
Yep, and Grayson, great stuff on that. Grayson also, Grunush, Crewman, Franklin are not the only SEC coaches. Someone mentioned Derek Mason, but Kevin Sumlin when he was at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I pulled that from an article, and so said that line. I wouldn't have thought about it otherwise, but I saw that mentioned, and clearly that's not a go-to source. That was very off base.
Now, to be fair, Kevin Sumlin wasn't hired in the SEC. He was fired in the SEC. He was hired in the Big 12 and then came to the SEC. That doesn't change the fact that he was, but
he coached.
Let's settle on this. There's been less than a handful in the history of the SEC, and maybe Dion is one of those, next in line to change that overall total, and good for him if it is Auburn or wherever.
Matthew Nichols, $2 super chat. You boys come into Lubbock. I'd love to get an autograph. We have high school football near Austin on Friday night late, and then we have our pregame here in the studio, whether they're home or on the road. When they're at a bowl game or when they were at the Big 12 championship, we did travel. We had better bandwidth opportunities. That's one of the things. Matthews, we appreciate that. That's flattering. And I told you we would get something. We could try to sign it. We'll send it to you in the mail. So let's get in touch with us on that. You can give us your address at the text line 254-339-1122, and thank you so much. Next, we'll continue. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, on anything he's heard from Brett Yormark lately that intrigues him or maybe caught his interest. This is 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, Jay Arrett, Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. And I gave you this the other day, and it's a great offer, $100 off some of their bed covers. $100 off some of their bed covers. Now, it will also help if you mention Sikkim or 365 or 365 Sports. And here is the deal. And he sent me this earlier. It's actually $120 off any bed cover purchased and installed at Pickup Outfitters in Waco on Lake Air Drive. Includes folding, rolling, retractable, and lid-style bed covers. $120 off any solid bed cover purchased and installed at Pickup Outfitters. And, of course, they have the great amenities for your truck, your vehicle, your SUV, or whatever it might be, but also an incredible back behind what you see on the front off of Lake Air. They've got techs and specialists that install everything you need, from bed covers to bumpers and grills and whatever else you need. And so $120 off, folding, rolling, retractable, and lid style, purchased and installed at Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com.
Hi, now Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue, cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Handoff, it's Reese. Touchdown, Richard Reese.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Back in July, when the USC-UCLA story and the Big Ten, popped, we started seeing Bob Thompson with various nuggets information and insight about television and TV deals. He lived it. He was a part of it. He was right in the middle of it at Fox Sports, and he joins us, and he has numerous times. We appreciate his access on 365 Sports. Bob, thanks for your time. Before we get into any of that, how was the cruise?
First of all, it's great to be back with you guys. The cruise was great. I've been delayed for 2 years, and had a nice time. A couple of weeks on a boat and a few days front end and back end, and did some Spain and Portugal, a little bit of France. It was very nice, but it's always good to be back in the U.S.
And then now, welcome back to reality, as I told you in a text last night, and you giggled on that.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is I get to start playing golf tomorrow. So I've got that going for me.
Oh, that's right. You had the injury to come back from. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So a week ago or so, Brett Yormark mentioned at Big 12 basketball media days about he thought that within a couple of weeks that there would be news about an extension. And then he was in Waco on, Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and I sat down with him, and it didn't seem like it was quite as positive, not positive, but it wasn't quite as emphatic. Mac Rhodes thinks it's still somewhat imminent, this extension or whatever you want to call it. What are your thoughts about what you heard?
Well, I listened to both, the comments from a couple of weeks ago and then your conversation with him. And it seemed to me he kind of walked it back a little bit. The one thing that really stuck out to me was that they had not had any discussions on term, really. He mentioned that. And that's a little surprising to me because, there's only a few things that really matter, and that's signing bonus, term, and annual rights fees. And it's really hard to get to either of the two money issues if you don't know how long the deal's going to be. And so that's when I really kind of start thinking that they're not as close as maybe some people have made it out to be. When you heard the words imminent being used and things like that. And, to me, imminent is like, in a couple of days. And I just don't think they're anywhere near that close, nor do they have to be. He's got 16 months until the actual exclusive negotiating period begins. So I don't see what the big rush is other than, if they want to show some numbers to some other schools outside of the conference to see if, somebody might nibble.
Bob, when he said, a couple weeks, could he have been in a meeting and said, oh, well, heard just some things and gone, well, this could go fast? Because can't these things go fast when you hit on agreeable terms pretty early?
Yes, they can. They can move quick. And if it's just an extension, which this could technically be because you're talking to your existing two partners, that can help speed up the process. The one thing, though, that I caution on that is that this is like a 12-year-old deal, and there's a lot of things have changed in these 12 years, and a lot of things they're going to want to cover going forward. So to just do a straight extension and just add some years and add some dollars, I don't think they're going to do that. And I also don't think they would have gone out and hired Endeavor as their agency to market their media rights if they were just going to do an extension. Endeavor's the two ladies that run their sports practice on the media side. One worked for me for a number of years, and the other one I've done a lot of deals with. And they're very, very good. And they're not going to just tack on a few years and add some dollars without covering all these other issues that need to be contained in a new agreement.
So, Bob, I know it's ruffled feathers for folks that aren't Big 12 fans per se to see Yormark coming out and saying this and that. And you kind of touched on it there as far as maybe enticing or getting the attention of some other schools. Besides that, what would be the point of going out publicly and saying things like he's saying of, a deal might be imminent or what have you? Because the people he's talking to, they know what's what. So what's kind of the mindset behind doing that?
I guess he'd really like to have something to show, a nice hit in his first 60 days or 90 days or whatever he is. And that would certainly be one. I think it sends a message to the rest of the college football world that, as he stated, the Big 12 is open for business. And not only are they open for business, they're doing business. And, he's made some comments about potential expansion west. He's hired, a number of ad agencies to try and help, create a better message for the conference going forward. And I think what he's really trying to do is really put out the impression there, which I think is very smart, that we're moving forward. It's full steam ahead. We've got a job to do, and we're doing it.
He mentioned that it would be good and will show stability, which obviously both the Big 12 and the Pac-12 want that, need that, and would love that. Would that make a difference if this is only like 3 years or whatever the number would be, even with more money? Does that give them enough stability, especially in this time when we've seen so much uproar in the last year or two?
I think stability is important. I think certainly right now, in my mind, that the Big 12 is more stable than the Pac-12. Pac-12, I've maintained all along, needs to get a deal done, sooner rather than later. And I understand they're supposedly close, but, they've heard that for a while. I think for the Big 12 having the deal done, it does a couple of things. Number one, they're locked in. They're going to be locked in with, ESPN and Fox if it gets done now. And, ESPN Plus will be continue with the third tier package. So they have a streaming element. They have, broadcast network. They have the linear cable network. And it's very similar to, a Big Ten deal, other than the money's not quite there and they got one less network. Other than that, they're going to get great windows, and he's got the BYU window so the networks can get 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific windows out of a few home games there. Obviously BYU's not going to want to play all their home games at night. It gets a little cold there in that part of the country a little later in the year. So, but I think it would show some stability and again, show that conference is moving forward as a plan, got a TV deal. My guess is it's going to be a 5-year deal that, they're going to want to go to market again before the Big Ten does and the SEC does. Possible that they go a year after, but I don't know. I would think for both the Pac-12 and the Big 12, it might be smart to go a year short and maybe be negotiating for 2009 as opposed to 2030 when the Big Ten's up again.
Do you think that, particularly because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are so linked now because of what the Big Ten did to them and poaching their two LA schools from them, would make it difficult if you were negotiating with the Pac-12 right now? Would you feel across the room that maybe not all 10 of those schools are really all in this right now, knowing that they may have to do something else or have the opportunity to do something else within the terms of even a very short contract?
Yeah, if I was negotiating, I'd certainly want to have a look at the grant of rights before I signed any, television deal. Make sure that everybody's solid, at least for the term of the TV deal, and that there's no, easy out. The other thing would be, it's hard to say. I think for the conference, I don't think they're going to hold any grudges. Personally, I don't think that Fox is going to be involved. So the fact that USC and UCLA are gone, they're not going to be able to pin that on anybody. Because I really would be surprised. I think Fox is happy with the USC, UCLA for their West Coast. They've got the Mountain West Conference. That who knows what's going to happen with San Diego State. But you've got some other schools out there that can fill that late night 7:30 Pacific window that usually just airs on FS1 anyways, and so not a big deal for the Fox broadcast network. I think, that's kind of, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if I'm buying, I'd certainly want to see that grant of rights because there's without a doubt, and they'd be smart. I mean, they'd be foolish if they hadn't. Every school in the Pac-12 has had to have taken a look around and made some other, inquiries or plans. I mean, just as a prudent business person, that's something you have to do when your future is potentially thrown into peril.
Bob, with these shorter-term deals that the Big 12 might be signing or potentially the Pac-12 as well, how short do you go? I mean, what is feasible? Is it like a 3 years and then turn right around and go back to market? Kind of how does all that work?
I'd be surprised if they were less than 5.
Okay.
The broadcast networks want and the television partners, broadcast, cable, whatever, streaming, they want some level of certainty. You got to remember that the way these deals work, especially if there's a signing bonus or some upfront money, the they tend to have an revenue accelerator over the course, 3 to 4% per year. But the networks, by and large, make more of their money on the back end because they can raise their prices maybe a little bit more along the way than what they're raising the increases on a year-to-year basis to the schools in the conference. So, 5 years, I think, would be the minimum. I don't think anybody wants to do 12 and 13-year deals. I don't think the conferences should, and I don't think the networks, while they might want to, I don't think they have to. For years, the deals were a lot shorter, and then all of a sudden there was this round where stuff was 12 and 13 years. I mean, even the NFL deals, 10 years. And but given the way TV is changing, and we're kind of at this inflection point where, is it who's going to win the battle? Streaming, the bundle, back and forth. Hard to say, but if you go much longer than 5 years, you could miss something. You could miss that point where there's a flip, and you're going to be on the wrong side of the flip.
You mentioned the Pac-12 getting closer. That's what you've heard, and we're not sure yet what that is, and hopefully for them it all works out as well. Or you feel like they're going to end up relying on streaming heavier than maybe the other conferences?
Yes, I do. I think that I don't know necessarily that it's going to be for their top games. I think they'll still want to put those on, ESPN/ABC. But I think for, the next level down, and if I'm correct that Fox is not going to be bidding, they might be bidding, but they're not going to bid hard on the Pac-12. I would guess that a streaming partner would be next. And I think that would be good for the Pac-12. I think, West Coast, all those entities, be it Apple, Google, Amazon, they're all located out there. People are pretty comfortable with that kind of concept out there. And it's probably not a bad fallback for the conference. So, the tough thing, though, for them is, I think they can get close to a deal here pretty soon. It might take a little longer because it's not like what may happen in the Big 12 where it's the same existing, incumbents in Fox and ESPN. You bring a new entity into it and, maybe an entity that's buying more bulk than ESPN is, the contract becomes a lot more things have to be negotiated in terms of, dollars, selection rights, selection process, all those types of things, which are the nitty gritties when you have a new agreement. If it's just a renewal, most of that stuff's pretty well laid out, and it's just really dollars and length.
Bob, you said that they would be comfortable out there with that kind of programming or that kind of service. Is that kind of saying that, West Coasters may be a little bit more in tune with Apple TV, Amazon streaming, as opposed to, and look, every time a game is on streaming here, we get a lot of questions from people who are older, who are not into that, about how do I get it? How do I subscribe? That there wouldn't be as much consternation among the fan base about how to actually tune in and watch.
I think that's part of it. The thing that the Amazon NFL games has shown is that, they're drawing decent numbers. They're also drawing a younger audience. So that, also goes to the fact that the younger people tend to know how to, navigate these streaming things better. Those companies are all very, very, well known on that part of the country because, like I said, they're all located there. The one thing you have to be concerned about, in my mind, with Amazon is, okay, so let's say it's a 3:30 window, which is 12:30 Pacific, so a 3:30 Eastern window. You've got like 5 other games on at that time, right? Fox has got a couple between their outlets, and ESPN's got a few, and there's an ABC game, there's a CBS game. And now all of a sudden there's going to, if there's an Amazon game, you got to leave your bundle where you can flip back and forth at the touch of a button. So all those different games, and, all us sports people are horrific channel surfers. You got to bust out of your bundle or your DirecTV package or your cable package, go into the Amazon app, find the game, etc. And then you're stuck there unless you leave and go back to the bundle again. And so that's one thing that kind of scares me a little bit, as opposed to on Thursday night, they're the only game on. And people will go there and they'll just sit on that game because there's really nothing else to watch. Maybe there's one other college game. But so they'll just sit on that game, and that's fine. But when there's all these other games going on at the same time, as the Amazon game, that becomes a little problematic to me as far as, they're not going to get people who are just breezing through the games and decide to hit on it and stay on it. You're going to have to want it. You got to go there to get that game. And then you can't really go anywhere else unless you leave that platform and go back to your other platform. That's something I'm going to be interested to see if Amazon or Apple TV or whoever is one of the partners.
Bob, this is a random question that popped into my mind. For the last 20 years or so, the SEC has been the king of college football. And, had they not had multiple teams winning national titles during that stretch, then they're obviously not viewed the same way they are now. But they did. It was terrific timing along with the marketing. But, I don't know, and I'm sure I could probably go find 1990s TV ratings and whatnot. But in terms of just the sports business and TV, when did the SEC become this juggernaut, and kind of how? Were they always so heavily watched, or was there something else to it, back in the early 2000s?
No, it was really, kind of around when the BCS started going, and they had a good run at that. And that's kind of, to me, when they really got their legs. I think, a lot of, if you went back in mid 80s, it was kind of just like a regional conference. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, they had they had games and on CBS and had for years, but it really has grown. I think part of it was the association with ESPN to the length that they went, and then they've just performed. I mean, it is a religion down there, and it's got great following, and the teams have performed very well. There's always seems to be, Florida had some good runs, LSU had some runs, Alabama's been in and out, Georgia. It seems like there's always a couple of the schools in the SEC that are just slightly better than everyone else, and I think that prolonged, height of performance is what's helped them the most.
Texas won in 2005, they had a team set up in 2009. Oklahoma's been a part of that championship or semifinals as well. How much would it have helped the Big 12 overall in all of this information had those two not just been close but actually captured an extra national championship or two? Would that have strengthened the Big 12 in any way?
Oh, absolutely. I think, it was, I was at that Texas USC game, still one of the best games I've ever been at. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, those things help. I mean, that's a glow that you kind of can bask in for a while. I mean, not forever, but certainly for a while. And I think that certainly would have helped. But I also think, I think the Big 12 is going to be just fine without Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, it's at first it's just like the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA. I mean, it's a punch to the gut. But I also think for a variety of reasons, it's probably a fair number of schools in the Big 12 who aren't too sad to see them go, based on some of my dealings. So, I think that winning always helps, and winning provides a glow, just not for that individual school, but for the conference as well. So, yeah, from that standpoint, Craig, I think you're right. I mean, it certainly would help.
Bob, does the economy affect TV deal contracts?
Yeah, a little bit. I never got too hyped up about it. I mean, I went through the 2008, 2009 kind of financial crisis and some other stuff in the 90s. You have some, you take a little sharper look at everything. But, at the end of the day, you're running a sports network, you got to have some games. And so you got to do what it takes. And sometimes what happens is it's stuff other than the marquee stuff. So, you keep your crown jewels, but, some of your less sparkly jewels might get thrown along the wayside. And a little bit of the rich get richer and the poor get nothing. So that's the most likely thing to happen. I think that, everyone's looking at the ad markets and how that's going to work and the issues with the cord cutting and the cable bundle, stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, sports still draws, live sports and news are the two biggest draws for television. And so from that standpoint, it's going to be somewhat recession proof, although they're going to be taking a hard look at things.
Soon after USC, UCLA, the Big 12 commissioner change was announced as well. You came on with this. That's when we got to know you, and I watched you on social media interacting to try to bring insight, and you were. In the end, have you heard much from the business or inside the business on what people have thought about Brett for the last month or two?
A few things. I mean, a couple people have said, he's still Brett, and that that doesn't surprise me. I mean, you're not going to change the DNA of the guy, and he's been a salesman, and it can he didn't come out of finance, I guarantee you that. But he's a very smart guy, and he's always moving forward. And I think that kind of energy can be very infectious. And I think I don't think it's a bad thing for the Big 12. I'm not saying that it was quiet and laid back and all those type of things, but with Bob or with BB or even with Weiberg. But I think it's certainly a change from your typical collegiate commissioner or conference commissioner. And I think in this day and age, it's with what's going on and the changes that the business of collegiate sports is going through, and don't mistake me when I say that. It is a business, especially at the conference level. I mean, those guys are out there to generate revenue. So I think having an individual like Brett and moving them forward is a good thing.
Yeah, and I think the conference needed somebody to go fight for him. Not that Bob Bowlesby wasn't doing that, but it did seem like it was more reactive than proactive, and I think that's where they have it right now with Brett. Bob, as always, you've given us an incredible amount of time. I'm glad you had a fantastic trip, and jealous as hell, by the way, but glad you're back, and thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
All right, you guys take care. Good to talk with you.
You too. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, also Robert Thompson Sports, and he's a consultant, and he just gives us insight. We appreciate his time.
Yeah, I'm glad that I thought to ask about the SEC stuff, because I think we've kind of, when we've brought that up, like the whole ESPN push starting in the early 2000s, really, that was, I think we've always come back and settled on, like, no matter how much they pushed it, if Auburn and LSU and Alabama and Georgia and Florida all won national titles in the last 20 years. Like, if that doesn't happen and it's only maybe Florida won a couple and that was it, then yeah, we're not talking about them anywhere near because, like, dude, I'm more of a 90s kid. I was born in the 80s, but I'm a 90s kid. There was never ever an SEC chant in my head or around me or in the conversation. Not a single time ever in the 90s. And then in like the mid 2000s, that became like the chant of chants in college football. And so I've always just figured, it was just everybody winning and great timing. And that's basically what he just confirmed. Yeah.
And it's also completely based on the system that was set up. Is that, you got SC, like, if you were one of the top two teams, that's the only way you could play for a national title, really, once the BCS happened, too. And so that's 2000 on, or 98 on, the BCS. And so getting that top two, if one of them was an SEC team, then they always had a 50% chance to win. And, most of the conferences, but the big schools in the conference have all won one. Tennessee's won one. Florida's won a couple. Alabama's won every other one of them. Yeah. Auburn's
LSU's
won
chunk.
one.
And Tennessee not in the last 20 to be exact.
But like 25. Yeah. But so like in the last quarter century.
98, right?
Yeah, 98. Like the last quarter century.
When did Florida win? 96?
Yeah, they won in 96. They also won, and then Tennessee won in 98. Yeah. And so from that point on, you've got SEC teams winning it every other year. And then the system being so much is that they got into that conversation all the time. And if they had a playoff, they probably have far less than they do just because you're given opportunities to lose. But
and I don't even say that as a knock. I mean, there's going to be documentaries. And I mean, it's amazing if you're like 20 years old, you don't understand what we're talking about because that's all you've ever known. But if you're like 35 or older or somewhere along those lines, or maybe even 25 or older, perhaps, I don't know. That's kind of cutting. But you know, like, that was not a thing. That was never a thing. But over the last 20 years, it's been a thing. And so, winning matters. That's the thing what we always come back to is you talk about TV ratings, talk about how can this conference grow? How can this program grow? How can you get better TV deals? How can you win? It's as simple
you
as
force
that.
yourself into that deal.
You just win, and that's all you can do.
I do think the better model, because you can't just all of a sudden, like, it's going to take time for the Big 12 to win a bunch of national titles.
Sure,
I think the better model for them to follow is, how do you be more like the Big 10, which I know the alumni bases are huge, but even still, like, you've got a big alumni basis. There's one great team over the last quarter century in the Big 10, and that's Ohio State, and they are the most consistent team in college football over anybody, even with only winning a couple titles in that time.
Yep.
They're so consistent, but everybody else in the Big Ten is just like everyone else, but they've got this big, gigantic TV deal and the TV network, and they've got all this stuff. And
they're like almost, and I don't mean this, like, I don't want to say it that way. They're almost like this big-ass machine that's just monstrous, and they just needed...
But they figured out how to work it and hide the fact that they're like, hey, we've got this Big Ten network. There's going to be great games on it. You're going to get to watch Purdue and Maryland, who've now won national championships, so you'll love it. And then nobody said, huh.
Somebody asked in the chat room about why the Big 12 would not have a network, and I did not get a chance to ask him that. Next time I talk to Brett Yormark or who we do, that's something that whether it even work or not, the ACC has one, the SEC has one, the Big 10 has one, the Pac-12 was, of course, not good, but they have one. Here's put it in perspective.
Part of the reason why they didn't ever have one was the Longhorn Network.
Yeah, and then OU got theirs, and so from 1980, Georgia won it, to 92, the SEC was shut out of a national championship. And that's kind of what
imagine that happened these days?
Oh,
they
my
went
God.
12 years without a title. Man, there'd be meltdowns.
They couldn't even fathom it. And Alabama stunned a great Miami team to win it. Then you had Florida with Spurrier. Then you had the Tennessee and T. Martin team. And then you saw this run, LSU. 03, 06, these are
that's when it really
08,
flipped.
09,
I mean,
LSU 03. Yeah.
All due respect to Spurrier and Tennessee and all that. It flipped when LSU beat Oklahoma, I feel like, in, was that 2003?
2003, they split
That's
it with
when
SC.
it flipped to me. That's when it flipped to me because Oklahoma was a juggernaut of a program. They had just won in 2000. Then you had Nebraska and Miami in 2001. So Miami obviously had arguably the greatest team of all time. And what was that? Ohio State beat Miami in the controversial pass interference call. And then LSU upsets this Oklahoma team that, like, there was no thought they're not winning that game, Oklahoma. Like, it was in New Orleans, but you're like, this is Oklahoma. Like, they're not losing to LSU. And sure enough, 21-14 just gets bogged down. Like, this great offense couldn't score. And then they turn right around. They get drummed by USC the following year. And I think that kind of, like, pivot point, Texas was able to follow it up and win in 05. But, like, after that, I mean, you're pretty much just looking at some version of, Florida, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, that whole crew, ever since really, Texas crossed the goal line in Los Angeles. I mean, ever since really then. But LSU, I feel like beating Oklahoma was really a massive turning point for them, the drums to start beating a little bit for that conference.
The Big 12 has won, in the history of the conference, 97, 2000, and 2005. In the history of the conference, and they've had some really fantastic teams. The early years of Nebraska, the Nebraska early years, Kansas State with Snyder. We know what happened to them. Overtime loss to A&M. They have not sniffed, really. I mean, that Oklahoma-Georgia semifinal game was fantastic, but they couldn't hold on. That has hurt them as well. Yeah. All right, we got to go.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was going to say, Pac-12 outside of USC doesn't have any titles.
Yep.
The ACC's had a good combo of now FSU, Clemson, and Miami, and Clemson's really carried that water pail for them. Ohio State's carried the Big Ten, as we've talked about. I know they've had other good teams, but the Buckeyes are the ones that are winning titles and doing it regularly. So, I think that's the impressive part about the SEC as well, is just the number of teams. It's like not quite half the league, but it's almost half the league, because a third of the league have won national titles.
Multiple teams, multiple titles. By the way, Miami's national title, they were independent. Or were they part of the Big East? They weren't even a part of the ACC. That came in 04. All right, Jennifer Smoak, she's been off for a couple of weeks because she was out in Lubbock with all her friends this past weekend. And
you mean my sister that graduated from Texas Tech? Yeah.
Yeah, but you hate the Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, the education I paid for, we paid for. All right, when we come back, Jennifer Smoak, fantasy football guru, Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. What is that? It's a humidor. That's where you put cigars to keep them fresh, moist, with how you want them. Don's Humidor with Ashley Cheyenne and also Carol. They have every elite brand of cigar you would want, including the number one cigar in the world, the 1964 Padron, is in the Humidor. Ashton, Macanudo, H. Upman, Rocky Patel, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente, CAO, Padron, I mentioned them. Obviously, Cohiba. Name them, they got them. One of the other ones that's really like a sleeper is La Fontana, kind of have a sweet taste to it. There's a Churchill length and also a torpedo edge if that's what you want. Fresh coffee beans if you want to grind your own coffee beans, or they'll do that for you while you wait. And they have all the accessories you need if you do smoke cigars. They have pipes if you smoke pipes. And on top of that, CBD products, if in fact you need a little help at night to kind of relax to go to sleep, they have those as well. It's Don's Humidor and coffee beans and a 48-foot loaded humidor with cigars in the Townwest Shopping Center of Valley Mills in Waco.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop confidence on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. But when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
It's time for fantasy guru Jennifer Smoak, brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, a hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive.
S. Michael DeHart on the chat room. Partagas number 10, my favorite stogie as far as cigars. Don Humidor has Partagas too. Thanks a lot for S. Michael DeHart and the chat. All right. Jennifer Smoak is back with us, fantasy football guru. She has had a mini comeback after an awful start to her season. She also was distant. She was on a trip the last couple of weekends and not available. And so she joins us on a hot streak. Jennifer, how is your team?
Hey, boys. They're doing much better since the last time we talked. I think it's been 3 weeks or 3 fantasy weeks since I've talked to y'all, and I've gotten 2 wins out of those 3 weeks. So I'm now at 3-4. I'm tied for 3rd place, but I have the most points out of the people I'm tied with in 3rd place. So right now, if we were to end the season, I would make it into the playoffs.
So Jen,
we're on a good streak.
Yeah, you're doing well. Do you feel like you have any? Because I'm looking at your roster, I don't think you have any real deficiencies here.
Well, there's a few things, but I feel like at this point in the season, there's always they always list people as questionable, and then they'll end up being fine. So there are a few little concerns, only because one of my wide receivers, Chris Godwin, is on my bench, but he's playing tonight, and it's right now they're saying that Debo is listed as questionable. So I'm a little bit concerned about that because I don't believe he practiced today, and I don't know, what's going to happen with him. Now, I do have Lockett still on my bench, but he also is listed as questionable. But if Metcalf doesn't end up playing, Lockett's a great choice to put in if he's healthy. And then Godwin, I feel like tonight against Baltimore, they could be throwing the ball a lot, and he could be a top target against the Ravens. So I'm not sure exactly what to do yet, but I know that if Debo does play, I can see him going off because he always is a great matchup against the Rams. But, Debo, I've just been kind of disappointed in Debo. I feel like everyone always talks about how dominant of a player Debo is and that they need to get the ball to him. And when he does get the ball, he just explodes. But they don't get the ball to him enough. And so I feel like this year he hasn't really been having those crazy fantasy weeks. He had one about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then other than that, he's been pretty, even. So I am disappointed that he hasn't had more explosive weeks. And I just feel like it's a hard choice to put him on the bench with how good his potential is. So that's the only thing I have this week that I need to decide on.
Well, they had the big run with him last year. Remember, they had that streak, and then he led to the contract. And you got to be careful because he was almost like a Taysom Hill type.
Well, he's
not
had some
same type player.
He's had some really good games, but again, and part of it is Jimmy G is so. I mean, it's really, really tough there. But I think the harder question is, do you play Godwin? Because that's tonight. And then if you play him and he doesn't have a good game, it's not like you can just take him out of the lineup and hope the points it would have been from Lockett or Debo. I think you leave Debo in, and if it comes down to game time, it's not looking good, then flip him out with Lockett. They're probably both going to play, so you're okay there.
Yeah, and that's the thing is San Francisco just has so many weapons. I mean, I feel like Jeff Wilson's running the ball good. Now they've got McCaffrey, and they just have a lot on the offense. So it's not that Debo isn't good. He just doesn't have as much, he isn't getting the ball as much as he did last year. So, yeah, I think it makes me too nervous to sit him. So I do feel like I'll end up playing him unless he ends up being out. And then, yes, I do have Lockett as long as Lockett ends up being healthy too. So that's one of my main things. I don't know if you saw that I did pick up Mostert a few weeks ago on waivers because James Conner is horrific and always gets hurt. So I can't deal with him anymore. He's on my bench until otherwise noted. But all my other running backs that I have as backup, they're not really beneficial. So I feel confident with Mostert. I mean, Mostert had a really good week last week, and I'm impressed with him. He had 16 rushes for 79 yards and a season high of 4 catches for 30 yards. So I feel like if they keep feeding him the ball, he's a good spot for me to have in running back 2 with, my other choices right now. So I am pleased with him.
All right.
I wish I would have gotten someone like Kenneth Walker, though. Very disappointed about that.
That's how you win this thing. When you get someone like that, it probably was overlooked, and he goes off.
Second to last pick of the draft for me.
I think I did put him in as who I wanted, and then whoever was right in front of me in waivers got him. So that missed out on that one.
Who was the woman that did that to you?
Persia. And, last week he became the second Seahawks rookie with at least 150 rushing yards and 2 rushing scores since Kurt Warner in 1983. So I'm extremely impressed with him. But instead I got Mostert, but it's okay. I see potential in Mostert, and I just have to hope that he continues to do well.
Well, especially this week against Detroit. That's a pretty good play. So your opponent has Lamar Jackson, Dalvin Cook, Tony Pollard. Going to have to do something about Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman.
Tony Pollard in a week when he's going to get almost all the carries.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's some good things about her matchups, though, that I feel like are beneficial. I mean, Lamar only completed 9 of 16 passes last week for 120 yards and no touchdowns. But all that says to me is he's going to explode tonight, especially on Thursday night when everyone's watching. And Tampa Bay has been really generous to opposing rushers, so I can see him running around using his legs a lot tonight. But yeah, Tony Pollard with Zeke being out, Tony could get obviously a heavy workload, and I think Tony's better than Zeke anyway, so I feel like he's really going to shine this week. Now, Pittman's against the Commanders, which I don't even know if I need to say more about that. But, they've allowed the 7th most yards and 9th most fantasy points per game to receivers, so that's a good matchup for her. But thank God we just got the news about Jamar Chase, and with his hip injury, I think that really benefits me this week. And for anybody out there that has T. Higgins, that's really going to open up the door for T. Higgins to have some huge weeks. And if Tyler Boyd is available in anyone's league, I would really recommend picking him up, because Boyd currently ranks number 10 in fantasy out of all wide receivers, and that was with Chase playing. So with Chase out, I expect Tyler to put up big numbers, especially with how Burrow played, which, by the way, I have Josh as my quarterback, Josh Allen, but Burrow is my backup quarterback, and it was amazing last week when I put him in, because it was almost like Josh Allen dressed as Burrow for Halloween and came in and still saved the day for me. So I was really, really, really impressed with Burrow last week.
A lot of young kids in the Buffalo area are probably dressing up like Josh Allen as well. So he wasn't the only one.
I won $50 with Joe Burrow in my lineup in daily fantasy last week. So.
Oh, did you? All right. That's very good.
Yeah. I mean, he had 481 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. I mean, it was incredible. It was a great week to put him in. So
61
I'm happy
points.
about that.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to something that was traumatizing and exhilarating. This is why fantasy football, and I'm no longer a part of it. 3 weeks ago, or whenever it was, you were in a game, and you had the lead, and then someone else had things go crazy, like it was a defense scored. The Cowboys. Was it the Cowboys beat you?
Yeah. Okay. So it was 4 weeks ago that I was playing. Oh gosh. I was playing, I think it was Persia, and I was winning, and I felt like I was in a really good position to win. And then, I was up against the 49ers defense, and I had Debo in, and that's the one week that Debo actually went off and had his biggest week of the season. He literally did everything that I needed him to do in order to win that week. But of course, the 49ers were playing the horrific Matthew Stafford, who has been on my you-know-what list this entire season for numerous reasons. And the 49ers got like 20-something points against him. And at the very end of the game, I had it won. And, of course, Matthew, being as terrible as he is, threw a pick six. The 49ers run it back. And then after that, it was just like another 2 sacks, another fumble recovery. And it just all went downhill against them. So, surprisingly, the next week, so I lost that week. It was horrific. The next week, I'm playing Taylor. I was up by a certain amount of points, but she had like 3 or 4 players in, and all I had was Dallas's defense. And I think I had James Conner. I think that's when he got hurt again. He's always hurt. So Dallas is playing. All of her players are done playing, and I think she's winning by 2-point-something points. Okay. And I'm like, okay, well, all I can rely on is Dallas's defense. And with not even that many minutes left in the game, Dallas ends up sacking Matthew Stafford. He ends up fumbling the ball, so I get a point for the sack, and then they end up recovering the fumble, so I get 2 points for the fumble recovery, and I ended up winning by 0.6 points.
Did you
but
know
I couldn't
that?
even be excited because I was in such shock.
Well, and
it
then,
was one of the best wins of my life.
And then to close it out with this, Daniel, then, even in your most exciting moments, said you do know the NFL changes stats, like he may have been given a sack, but he ran out.
Micah Parsons just got one today.
Yeah, I know.
Completely busted my bubble. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, did I just win? Did I just win? Did I just win? He's like, hold on, wait for the end of the game. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm staring at the score, I'm refreshing, and he's like, okay, but I do have to tell you something. So after I realized I win, he's like, you know, they have to like calculate out all the stats and everything up in New York, and then it's been seen that, you know, days later they change the score. And I'm like, so you're telling me I can't even celebrate this win until Thursday? And this was Sunday. And of course, this is the week where all of my games are over in the 3 o'clock game. Like I already knew by then. And so I couldn't breathe for 4 days. And then finally I saw the confetti hit and I was like, all right, I won.
Congratulations. Natasha has kind of owned you. Persia has kind of owned you in the last 2 or 3 years of fantasy football. So you need to fight back.
Well, I'm owning her right now. I mean, we are tied right now, but I have way more points for me than she does. So I'm trying to get, you know, get up higher and just surpass her. But yeah, she always messes me up, always.
All right. Good luck.
Okay. Thank
you
you
very much
for
being a part of the show, Jennifer. Yep.
Hey, Jennifer.
Is that my Bubba?
Yeah. What's up? Your thoughts on Tech and Baylor this weekend?
Oh, dear.
Big Tech grad.
So, I mean, that's a hard matchup because I feel like, I mean, with the way Baylor's been playing and the way Tech has been playing, I feel like Tech would be a little bit more favored right now, but I also feel like Baylor could surprise anyone this weekend. I don't know what to say. It'll just be a fun game to watch. Yeah. I'll just say that.
Well, that was a very sweet way of saying that.
I'm not going to pick one team or the other on Waco Radio.
No, go ahead. So, who do you think really wins the game? It's in Lubbock. We'll go ahead.
And not to mention the coaching situation too. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
There's a lot. I'm going to say that I think that Texas Tech is going to take this one, but okay. I hope the Bears play well.
You don't have to sound skittish. That's fine. I'm picking Tech too, probably, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, that's probably smart.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right. Love you guys.
Jennifer
Bye-bye.
Smoak, fantasy football guru. Paul called her the guru. She started out like 0-3, but she's fought back. She's 3-4 in a clump behind someone who's off to a great start. Paul Catalina's top 5 is next.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 Big 12 questions for Week 9. Number 5. Will the loser of Baylor Texas Tech make a bowl game? We talked about this a little bit. Craig, you made a great point that if it's Texas Tech, they've got a little easier schedule on the back end. If it's Baylor, it's going to get a lot harder. Or for them to do it, they've got to find 2 wins. So, again, the loser has to find 2 wins to make a bowl game down the stretch, and they'll be 4-4 and not in a great spot, especially given some of the road trips that Baylor has to make.
Yeah, I think Tech definitely does. That'd give them, 5? And at worst, they'll beat Kansas. They have them remaining. Tech does have 2 road games, so you can, based on their history right now, chalk both of those up as losses to TCU and Iowa State, unless they win their first road game, which, is possible. But, just kind of going pretty easily to Kansas is their 6th win if they win this weekend. For Baylor, I don't know. Oklahoma's susceptible, but that game's in Norman. Texas is susceptible. That game's in Austin, and it's the season finale. It's Black Friday. And then TCU's obviously a really tough team that Baylor doesn't beat even when TCU sucks. So, and they haven't sucked. They've had down years like last year, and Baylor still found a way to lose that game, even though they went on a run right after that. It's just the weirdest one-sided rivalry over the last few years. So, I think if Tech wins, they're definitely going to a bowl game. I think if Baylor wins, I think they'll find one more win. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I think
okay.
Baylor goes.
No, yeah.
But if they lose, I think Baylor's in a lot of trouble. If Tech loses, I think they still have a good chance.
There's no game the rest of each of their schedule they cannot win, and there's no game that you can count as a gimme. That's why it makes it so dicey this weekend.
Number 4, is Neil Brown just treading water?
Basically at this point. I think, there's some element of the buyout in play here. I think there's probably, and I don't know West Virginia in and out enough, but I would imagine there's some level of support that still exists there in Morgantown as well amongst those whose support matters. But I think that's all those levels are falling, certainly.
Yeah, which leads us into a $4.99 super chat from King Sebastian. King Sebastian, thank you very much. As a WVU fan, I got a feeling they are about to botch the potential Hugh Freeze hire by letting Neil Brown stick around, allowing Auburn or someone else to swoop in. I
don't think Hugh Freeze is headed to a place like Auburn.
No, I don't think, and I think there's still some animosity from the SEC in general about him.
So. Yes,
and it was the way everything he went about there, and not that it's just So I think if they want Hugh Freeze, I think they could probably get him if they if they made the right offer.
I think the SEC hiring Hugh Freeze, some team out of there hiring him, is a little bit more complicated than just going and hiring a head coach. I don't know that that's very likely at all. But yeah, as far as West Virginia and there, I'm sorry, I don't think Neil Brown's going anywhere unless they just get blown out the rest of the way. Like that Tech game was awful, though. Man, it was awful. Like my whole thing with West Virginia is I had in the middle of the power rankings, like coming out of last week. It was because they had a break. It's also what everybody else did, like losing around them, and the fact they had the win over Baylor.
Yeah,
they had this prime platter to just go play well. You could beat Tech, but they just. But it was in Lubbock, but they no-showed, man, and they got destroyed, and it's bad right now. But, yeah, he's just treading water for sure.
Number 3, can Iowa State score enough to beat Oklahoma?
Yep.
You think they
so.
can? Yeah.
Yep, I think so.
Oklahoma's defense is
I don't think this
really
is
not good.
given they're going to score 40 or anything. I don't think OU's that good on offense that they're just going to go score on Iowa State and, have 30 points.
No, I think this will be Oklahoma wants to score 40 every time. Of course, everybody does. But, you can tell in that offense, the Levy offense, that if they score under 40, that's a bad day, right? And they're going to have a bad day against this Iowa State defense. Does that mean they lose? No. But Iowa State's found ways to lose these games close. Mm-hmm. And
they could be almost unbeaten in Big 12 play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that close to flipping. It's like single-digit scores for them in every one of these games.
And you're right. And yet – they haven't won. And so there's something missing, and it just seems like they hyperventilate.
Terrible turnovers near the goal line. It's things
missing
like
field goals,
dropping a touchdown walk-in.
It's like watching Baylor sometimes.
Or Nebraska all of last year.
Just execute. But, here's Oklahoma. They've scored 45, 33, 49, 41, 55, 49, 52. Or, excuse me, sorry. Sorry. 45, 33, 49, 34, 24. They got blanked by Texas. Now, granted, Dylan Gabriel's back, and then scored 52. So they've had mostly high scores, but this is Iowa State, man. This isn't some shabby defense. I don't think they're giving up 52 points to Oklahoma. So I don't think they're going to have to, have a high-scoring game to win this game.
Yeah. Number 2. Who will be the healthiest team in the Oklahoma State and K-State game? And I'm not just talking about the quarterbacks here, which obviously is very important for Kansas State. I'm not trying to belittle that, but if K-State can get what they got out of Will Howard, if he is the starter for a majority of the game against Oklahoma State, they can keep pace. And it's not just some of the better players at Oklahoma State that hurt. It's a lot of the Army ants, too. And when that depth is challenged, you can go ahead and lose a game because you're not all available. So I think that's the biggest key in this game is who can, with their MASH unit, and both these teams are MASH units right now, keep it together the most.
Yeah, they both have shown some grit. Obviously, Oklahoma State has showed even better. Kansas State, they had the 28-10. I mean, you wonder if there's a little hangover with that as well, and plus the uncertainty. Rubley, is that his name? The quarterback will get many more snaps this week if he does, along with Howard, who should be fine.
Well, Howard's going to be the guy.
Yeah,
that's not even a question. Rubley, it's not going to be Rube. I mean, he might have to play at some point, but it's going to be Will Howard if it's not Adrian Martinez.
But you guarantee you Rubley's going to get a hell of a lot more snaps than he did leading up to that last
practice,
game.
He'll have to. But I think Oklahoma State might have more injuries overall, but the Adrian Martinez is the most significant, and it's not even close. Yeah. That's the one that's the biggest difference in how a team looks. It'd be like losing Spencer Sanders, So, overall, I don't know, but I do know that the Adrian Martinez one is the worst injury, and that's why, I feel like Oklahoma State's got to feel pretty good, although it's going to be tough in Manhattan.
Yeah. Number 1. Seeing as the new rankings will come out this week, which, again, don't mean anything other than the hour of your life you wasted watching the show.
It sets the table, but
do the powers that be really see TCU in the CFP picture, especially if they win in Morgantown this week as they are expected to?
I don't think you can sit there and go on your little podcasts and your TV shows and talk about how fun and exciting the Big 12 is and then shut out the undefeated team out of that league. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be pretty hypocritical and kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. So I think people are going to have to decide, is the Big 12 a good, entertaining league that's deep, or are they overrated, and so TCU would be overrated as an unbeaten? I don't think it's that. I think it's the first part. So, I think that, if they win this weekend, which they should against West Virginia, and that sets the table for the final month of November, I don't think you have a choice but to talk about them. I do think that kind of where they are, top 8, they'd be guaranteed, but top 4, That's a little dicier, and I'm very curious because, like, I don't care about that show like you most of the time, but I will be very curious to see where they fall in those first rankings.
Yeah, if there's a Big 12 team that's engaged in it, I want to watch it, but I'm not going to sit there and like, oh my God, is it coming on? I'm not going to do that. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
I hope that they do. Out of respect for what TCU's done, they've looked good doing it, and of course have to take care of business, which you would think would not be a problem, but who knows? Thanks to all of our guests, including again the book from Jeff Pearlman, JT and Pikes Peak. I used to have a poster of Bo Jackson on my wall growing up, the one of him holding a bat while wearing shoulder pads.
I think we all had that, but absolutely.
So go get the book again. It's going to be, again, a great book. It's got some incredible background stories on Bo Jackson. For Garrett Ross, also Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie today, Levi and Emery somewhere, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, you, all of you, thank you every single day, and our incredible sponsors, David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open